tell everyone.
Yeah. You can always put that in as the fourth Thursday of every month.
We will call to order budget workshop number 3. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Shemmers. Seeley.
Here.
Oberon.
Here.
Kearns.
Here. Yep. All right. So, starting this year, because some of the discussions have gone kind of long, we want to make sure we get through some things. We're going to switch the agenda around a little bit, and we're going to start with the CIP. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to try to work our way through anything on this agenda that has an implication of the tax levy, because we obviously have a timeline where we have to post stuff through the state, we have to have public hearings, we have to have all that, and we want to make sure that we get through those so that everyone has time to do that, and we don't get short there. The general fund obviously is extremely important, but it's not a direct implication of the tax levy, because that general fund is 812, and the numbers that are after that, that's what it's going to be. So we're going to move down to number 7, the capital improvement plan to start.
Correct.
Okay.
And Matt has it queued up on the screen. And so this was discussed at the committee of the whole on Tuesday night. This is the prioritization listing of all of the projects that were put before the CIP Planning Committee. And I know that there was discussion about it on Tuesday. Probably we'll let Matt take the lead on this discussion if he wants to. More versed in it than I am.
Yeah, I think that, we'll start with the bottom line up front. So that's on the top part there, it's 10.95 million at the number. And then if you look and add these into here, the number comes out to,
It's up all the way at the top.
at the top.
11 million.
11,181,110.
So we could just talk about it, because I know we've talked about the projects a lot. We could talk about it from an affordability standpoint. And so that's what this document is that I passed out to all of you. So this was put together by PFM. They have this nice program that can do this. They'll structure a bond. If we're going to go through with this borrowing in FY26, we have to pre-levy for the first payment. And so that's built into the tax levy. But you can see here, if you go down to the line that I highlighted for 25-26, that's the budget year that we're looking at. It illustrates what our current general obligation debt is. It's outstanding, $76,140,000. This bond, they gross it up a little bit to cover some costs, so that it's 11.4 instead of 11,181,000. And then you can see then that our total GO debt outstanding would come to $87,555,000. It leaves us an available effective capacity and available legal capacity of $22 million. And our percentage of debt to our legal limit is 79.79%. So we've talked about this before. Does everybody understand that our legal limit is 5% of our total valuation, of our 100% valuation? So that 100% valuation number is the second column on this sheet. Is that billion? $2,194,678,872.
Yeah, and what Councilmember Seeley's talking about is the reason when you look at the percent to debt to legal in the very far right column, and it was like 88, 85, 88, 89, and it dropped to 79, that's because our overall valuation went up 18.49%. But you'll see
Last-
here,
last
yeah,
year,
yeah,
for
last
this
year,
current
yep.
fiscal
It's
year.
only been 0.62, but
Yeah.
we used, on this one, we've done it a couple ways when Anita and I coordinated with PFM. This one, we ran at 0%, meaning there's no gain or loss, because you can see we've had a couple years where there's losses. But then this gets us to get down to, you know, the 66, actually 58 percentile when you look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It gets down to 51.57 at year 10.
Well, in our debt policy that we passed a couple years ago, that the finance committee authored and that the council passed, said that we would have, by FY '30, we would have $20 million in available capacity.
We got
And-
23 now.
And we do.
Yeah.
And back to Matt's point about the growth, this is our actual number for FY '26 for 100% valuation, so it was a 0.62% growth. It's really not worth mentioning, but, but there was growth, so.
But remember also is if it was 7.62, it becomes 3.62. Because they take away, the state takes away the growth. So even if we had a banner year, like that 18.49 came at a good time, because that's before they started institute, we're gonna cut you down to where you can only have so much growth. So they're limiting your ability to grow.
But I think it was the 18% average growth across the state of Iowa, which is, it's kind of funny that Clinton kept up with that pace, but the average across the state was 18%, and so the state legislature went, oh my God, people aren't gonna be able to pay their property taxes, we gotta do something.
Yep.
So
We
it
have-
limited growth.
We have the commercial reevaluation going on right now too, from the assessor's office, and that will be coming online later this
So
year.
in theory, it should
once
be
they're-
higher.
Once they're finished. So in theory, we
Yep.
could see, you know.
For next year.
As much as they let us grow next year.
True.
Whatever that number is. I
Yeah.
don't know how much it'll come up,
It's like,
but
I think they allow 3% or
in a couple,
something, yeah.
in a couple
Yeah.
weeks, we'll have that meeting with the assessor and we'll know more of
Yeah.
what that number is. So.
And some things to think about, for time's sake, I won't digress too much, but when you start thinking about Atlas and Project MG, and you start thinking about Project Stack, and they start building those over the next 3 to 4 years, you're gonna see that in housing continued as well, you should see that continue to climb. That's our estimate.
Do they show you, Anita, what the projected payment amount is based on, the annual payment amount is based on these borrowings?
So I have, that's a good segue into the next item, the debt book.
Oh, okay.
So I've listed out here just, well, I guess I just have it for FY '26, and then it shows what's outstanding. But we are paying off about $5.4 million in general obligation debt every year. You could say 5.5 if you want to round it up.
I guess I was curious
sheet
if
here, Cody.
what we are paying off actually has to increase to obtain
See if you go,
the,
is that the one you wanted to show?
Yep.
Just the column where it says FY '26 principal, right in the middle of the page, that shows what we will pay off in principal, in fiscal year '26, and then the interest amount.
oh, so we're actually paying 5, 6, 7, about $8 million a year in payments?
Yeah.
Ooh,
We levy for it on the tax levy, as part of the debt service levy.
Yep. And the correct me if I'm wrong, Anita, but PFM, when they do the calculations to get this percentage to go, they put that in there. They have another sheet that comes with this that's basically showing what's your estimated payment.
yeah, that's what I'm curious to see here. Like, based on these projections, what those estimated payments look like. Do you have that?
I don't have it summarized like this.
Okay.
It's in, we'll get you, it's in that weird chart they do that's like in a
Yeah.
PDF file.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So.
Because I know some of these are falling off and
Yes.
then
Yes,
others are
and that's what
coming
it takes,
on.
takes into consideration.
So, because, our total outstanding debt, for instance, goes from 91 million to 90 million, still with $11 million in borrowing. Now, in simple terms, that would infer you're paying like around $11 million plus. However, something might be falling off that year.
But there also can be structured differently. Like, look at this listing for the 2013 D, the very first one. There is no principal payment in FY '26, it's
Yep.
only interest. That borrowing, the principal, once it got to this year, FY '26, the principal skips a couple years.
And we're not backloading any of these bonds, right?
No,
Okay.
PFM structures them, like the the one for FY '26, they've only, the pre-levy is only for the interest payment, and then the principal would start in FY '27. But they structure it pretty evenly. We've
Okay.
asked them to smooth that out for us.
Okay.
We'll just have to get permission for you for the premium.
What?
You know, every year you asked about
No,
the,
they,
the
that's why
bond.
we end up with
Yeah.
a premium
Yeah.
sometimes, because on
Yeah.
the day they structure it, the interest rate might be this, and when they actually go to sell it, it's just a little bit more. And so they've sold a package worth $11.4 million, and they get a bid that is at the interest rate's lower, the bid is $11.4 million, say, but it's really only gonna be 11.3, and we end up with $100,000 in bond premium.
Yep.
That's kind of how that works.
Yep.
That's in simple terms how that works.
Okay.
So we checked the box on our debt policy, having $20 million in available capacity. Of course, we wrote that debt policy before we had an 18% growth.
Now that I'm
So-
thinking about how we wrote that, it did
Yeah.
not make sense
Yep.
because it doesn't factor growth.
If you remember, I think I wanted a percentage.
Yeah, it should have been a percent.
Well, I've been using but I've been using the percentage.
At that time, the 20 million was the percentage. It was like 65% or something like that, or 60.
Remember.
It was something like that.
I
It was
looked
the
at our debt
percentage.
policy yesterday to see,
Yeah.
because I thought that there was a percentage in there too. And we were looking at a sheet similar to this when we wrote the debt policy, so it was probably a smaller percentage than 80%. So we may need to revisit that.
I've been using 65% to get us to.
Which is a good number. Yeah, yeah.
Because we also had that discussion, it's kind of ambiguous, right? What is the right amount you should have at any time? We don't know. But I think the goal, though, from my understanding, is what I've been doing is driving it down. Is we had to tackle these 3 years, which we know are higher. But even if you look at that, it's like the 85, 88, 89, now 79, now 79. We bump up to 83 next year if we follow that. But then it's slowly starting to come down as we go.
Yeah, I think, we have to do some borrowing. I think it's just part of the operations, but if you just merely think about it, 2.6 million would almost cover pavement management, and we're just paying it in interest. Sucks.
I know. Well, no, in a perfect world, we wouldn't have any debt, and we'd use the lost and, in a perfect world, we've talked about this before, we wouldn't have any debt, we'd use local option sales tax and franchise fee to be able to buy our stuff in cash, but that's,
That's what I would like.
yeah. Well, you're gonna have to be here about 20 more years.
And certainly, by the time we get to 2033, 34, we could potentially start doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're 10 years off, but, if we're,
Assuming nothing happens during those 10
Yeah.
years and all.
Yeah.
yeah.
Remains
Well,
the same.
but if you
Yeah.
made everything that stayed the same until we get there, on that thought, you could still be, you're lost in your franchise fee. When you apply that, you're now gonna have, essentially, you could have more left over to then put in the general fund or other places.
Yes. yeah.
And I think you guys want to know about the SRF notes.
Yes.
So here's the,
So those are paid
Yep.
out of sewer rates, so not part of this discussion, but here it is illustrated for you.
and this is the part we worked the other day too, for changing the 2.5 million from an SRF note over,
That's the 2007,
7, right?
yep.
So the 609 that's left with the interest and the service fee. So that's about the 1.8 million.
Oh my God, look at the interest.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean down here?
Yeah,
but remember these last two are our new expansion. That's all on rates. Well, the whole thing is on rates, excuse me, but yeah.
Those last two are covered by
Yeah.
mediums, right?
Is the 46 million one, is that the
Yes.
original wastewater plant?
Yeah.
Okay.
We always typically say 60 because when you add a few other these things in there,
Yeah, some of them are.
I think this one here and
Pump
this one,
stations,
Yeah.
or they're force mains to get
it there.
it to the new station.
And
And
what,
those last two are not fully drawn on
Yeah,
yet.
we're still drawing on
what,
those.
I forget the term of the wastewater plant, the original one. Was it-
RWRF?
Or yeah, was it a 20-year?
No, it's 30. It
30,
got-
it's longer.
30-year?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I always forget that.
But
Oh, I
that,
thought you meant
yeah.
the acronym.
Oh, the RWRF.
No, I meant the how
It was
long that
originally like
loan
a
was for.
3%, for 20 years, and then once it got to be 10 years old, it could be refinanced at 1.75% for 30 years, which
Yeah.
And that's
there
where
was
we're,
interest savings. but
So it's a
for-
40-year note.
No, it's 30 years.
30-year.
You said at 10 years it can be
No,
refinanced.
we did that 3 years ago, when we refinanced that.
Would've been
Yeah,
2020?
probably 3 years, 3 or 4. No, you don't pay off 10 and then do another 20. It was originally 20, and we were 10 payments in, and we got to extend it to 30 years with the 10 original counted against it.
Okay.
And so, based on that email I sent you guys yesterday on 8C from the council meeting, so that's not in here, that's 1.884 to do the planning and design. And so I'm working with Anita to have her work with PFM and crew to get that over, because all that will be covered, and we think, talking to the contractor, he'll be able to include that 10K part for Circle, because it's linked to biogas. And so he can do both those planning and design we need to have, because we can't move forward with this project any which way unless we have that. But that will be paid out of rates as well. That's the plan. We're working with Ahler's Law that the rates would be a new industrial rate just for biogas. And that's what's going to be, we're going to bring it back on the 25th for the SRF note, as well as that resolution that the mayor talked about that I had in my email. You guys all tracking that?
Yep.
Okay. Because, good on mayor, because I got distracted by the $10,000 thing.
Yeah, you did. Big difference between 10 grand and 1.8 million.
1.884, yeah. And then we also had, I
Did
think,
you have something? Sorry, click your mic, but
Well, so I guess my question is, if ADM takes a walk, do we have enough in the sewer fund to cover that? Is the sewer fund still flush? Is it doing good?
The sewer fund is currently at a deficit
Yep.
balance.
Okay,
When we got the American Rescue Plan money from the Biden administration, when they said everybody gets this American Rescue Plan money, it was $3.8 million. And they changed the rules of how you could use that money so many times. But the original rules, we didn't have projects other than sewer projects. So Jason prioritized some sewer projects to get paid out of that $3.8 million. And work got started on it. There was like 3 projects going at the same time. And then we had our fiber project going that we thought that we could bond for, and we found out that it wasn't essential corporate purpose. It was a general corporate purpose project, which means in order to bond for it, if it's over a certain dollar amount, you have to have a referendum vote. So we flipped it.
okay.
yep.
So we
So
used
that took us
the
to the
American
deficit.
Rescue Plan money for the fiber project. And then we had all these sewer projects going to be paid out of the sewer fund. And we're not, up until this point, we weren't getting enough sewer fund revenues to cover like the $1.5 million that we were doing each year for the long-term control plan. But we had 3 projects going, totaling 3.8. So it had to come out of the sewer fund.
So overall, sewer fund's budget's doing well, but the capital fund is in a negative. And how we plan to attack that is by using that federal tax credit for the biogas project to make that whole, and actually put some extra in there for a strategic reserve for what we don't know will come along. The question if ADM goes away, they have to pay for this note no matter what. That's part of the contract we
Okay.
did. Talking with Allers is on how we're going to frame this with ADM. We're going to create a new rate from their same flow, because that's going to create biogas, that cents per unit, which is 748 gallons, would be adjusted based on how successful we are for selling the renewable natural gas and getting the renewable identification number RINs. That's another aspect of this.
Okay.
And also buying down that SRF note. So what they get from this is they get the benefit of us taking on the risk, them paying, but they get on the backside, if we're successful, their rate comes down just for that portion that we're looking at for biogas. They still have their same rate they're paying for the 8.1 million gallons per day they're sending.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I know it's a lot of,
It does.
so for the SRF notes, in order to get these, we have to have it backed by rates. And that's why we came to you to take that 2007 one and refund it from SRF to go bond because of the fact is our ratio is off. So when we go back to ask for the dollars for the biogas project, we have to show that we're going to have a new rate structure. And then they'll approve that note, and then that way we'll still have a good 1.12 debt to, ratio, so they'll give us a thumbs up.
And the rate structure will be on the
Yeah.
ADM side, not on the
Yes, and that's.
citizen side.
And what I've learned in this whole process is the utility has that prerogative to derive that. And we have to have the rates that are in there. So when we look 10 years ahead, it can't be, oh yeah, we had a contract, no, it's got to be rate based, because Taylor may look at that. Oh, by the way, is it Taylor? Oh, he's not here. I was going to embarrass him. He became the new director of the RWF today after his long, hard, arduous interview. So, yes, but he has to have the ability, because if his O&M changes, you have to be able to go and change that rate to raise that, because you just can't have a flat rate for 20 years for O&M, because things are going to change. And this is where Timothy Whipple said, you have, as a utility provider, have to be able to have that rate to then adjust it to make sure you can cover your cost.
So I just handed out something, not to confuse you, but this is a document that was put together by PFM. Flip to the second page.
Okay.
I highlighted some things on here. So that 1.10 is that middle number that I highlighted. So you can see under FY '24, we were at 0.98. Bill, are you on the second page? Okay, and then for FY '25, goes to 1.12 because of that refunding of the SRF, the second one that's listed on there. To take it out of this equation, it goes to a 1.12, but then when you look at projected FY '26, it goes to 1.9. And if you look down at the bottom here, this big number at the bottom, that's what we're anticipating to bill for cash reserves in the sewer fund.
168%.
And that's based on ADM coming online.
Yeah.
Yes, in October of this year, yeah. So they're going to pay a rate pre-fully operational. It's like 290, right? And that'll start, hopefully that starts June, July, because they got to slowly start to send it to us as everything gets in line. And then in October, then it'll switch to 345. That 345 basically, though, quickly adds up to millions that allows us to pay for the SRF note, right? The $130 million. It allows us to pay for O&M at 1.5 currently, and it provides $2 million for rate resiliency that
Well,
goes-ish.
yeah.
Well, not the
Matt
first year.
likes- I hate when Matt says rate resiliency. I'm just gonna go on record and say that, but we built, room in there to cover our long-term control plan projects.
Yeah, that's from
to be
Timothy,
paid
that's
from
from the lawyers to call it rate resilience, sorry. So we have funds that come in that will allow us to separate the sewers on the consent decree that we have to do from now continuing until 2038. The last 8 years, that rate's still gonna come in, but there's no sewer separations. So it's very nice for them back in, 39, but yes.
Yeah.
Did they explain why our debt ratio goes to 1.9 and then back down to 1.33?
I think it's how they structured the SRF loan.
Okay.
We won't
Probably because
have-
the payments don't start until after that year.
Well, and if you look at the bottom though, what goes nuts is then you go
Yeah.
from 168 to 212 to 273 to 333 to 393.
But that's not taking any updates or any
No.
maintenance into consideration.
Yeah, none at all. And that's not talking about Atlas coming online, Project MG, which is like $1.2 million a year. It's not talking about any of those, or even Spiber, $1 million bucks a year.
We didn't build that growth in here,
Yep.
because we had built that growth.
We took it
and
out on
didn't
purpose.
come when we were hoping it would, so we took all growth out other than what we know
Okay.
was gonna happen with people.
Okay.
And this also, that 1 point, that's the number that we have to go 1.1.
Zero's got to be,
minimum,
yes, yep,
So that we can, it's the 110%,
yes. Yep.
what's the word I'm looking for, paid?
This thing, your cash ratio.
Cash ratio,
Yeah.
there you go, yep, okay.
And that's the part that the city of Clinton now established for the entire state of Iowa, that everybody every year will look at that.
Okay.
Sorry, Matt, I didn't mean to say I hate it when you say that.
That's why it's rate resiliency.
Yeah. It's like, that was like our inside secret on my little spreadsheet. And then last thing on the debt book is the IFA loans. So the first listing here is for the project at.
Across from Hy-Vee.
Yeah, if you go up a little bit.
Oh,
I think there's
right there you go.
yeah,
Sorry.
The 1000 block of South Fourth Street. So you can see that's how they've structured those repayments. You can see the forgiveness there, so it was $200,000 advanced on the first one, 40% was forgiven, and it is a 0.5 interest rate. The second loan was $100,000, 20,000 for forgiveness, and then the last one, we didn't draw on the whole amount, it was 141,560, and that's the forgiveness. But you can see in FY '26, we'll have payments due of $79,974.67. There'll still be $238,000 outstanding, and then in FY '27, the $159,000 with $79,000 outstanding, and then it's done in FY '28. And then the next one on here, I had this, the clerk's office update this for you guys, because we just talked about this, or you all just talked about this at the council meeting on Tuesday night. None of these funds are drawn on yet, but these are the repayment schedules for those funds when we do draw on them. And so if Matt zips down to the end, there's 4 loans. But if you go all the way to the end, I have it summarized there. So you can see that FY '26 outstanding. I know Tammy said that she feels pretty confident that there will be a EPA brownfields grant available for $1 million. So that would, if we got that, that would drastically change this. Because we wouldn't have that large amount outstanding at the end of FY '26.
I think we had the 551,000 that I showed you in the cow the other night. Even though I think I had 519 on my chart.
Does anybody have any questions? So this really just, nothing like to vote on, I guess, today, but it's just information.
Okay.
Do we want to go,
Oh,
do we need to go back to the CIP and
Yep.
talk about it?
Yep.
Okay. Then we'll build from there.
Let me get this smaller.
These two kind of intertwined, I guess, the debt conversation and the,
Yeah, yeah, I
and the
figured we'd
CIP.
circle back to the listing and you guys would talk about, I guess what your appetite is for an $11.2 million borrowing.
My first question would be, as we're going through the levy stuff, $1 million is how much on the levy?
Like 95, well,
Or
so
is
on
that,
the debt service levy, it's different, because the
Okay.
denominator for the debt service levy is different than the denominator like for the transit levy. Because we've always been like, oh, $1 million for the transit levy is 95 cents.
okay,
But the debt service levy, the denominator is a larger number.
okay.
I think I have. So, I didn't bring a calculator, maybe Matt can pop a Excel spreadsheet up. But this right here is the denominator for the debt service levy. This 1,117,000,
1 billion?
yeah.
1 billion. $1 billion.
Yeah.
1,100,000.
571.
So if you came down here to where the debt service number is, what we're gonna get for taxes, you can see that $2.3 million is $2.11. So yeah, $1 million, you could say would be $1,
$1 million is about $1.
say $1.06.
Okay.
I only have 3 of these, but I'm
That's
happy to
okay.
hand them to anybody that would like one. We handed this out.
I brought mine.
Okay.
Oh, because
You
the,
brought yours? Okay.
because borrowing $11 million, you're not doing
Oh, thanks.
$11 because you're only paying principal and interest.
Correct.
That's why it's, you
Yeah.
gotta kind of take the, yeah.
Yep, that's kind of why.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't
Yeah.
ask it perfectly, but I got the
Yeah.
answer I was
Yeah.
looking for.
Because, what I told him is because it's, you're not paying for $11.1 million, you're paying the principal and interest
Right.
for
Right.
that, and that's
Right.
why.
Which is lower.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Right, that was
yeah,
a good point,
yeah.
I guess my initial thoughts on this is, I would like to see the levy remain the same, at least at 15.28. I think we're projecting like 3 cents over that or something.
15.32,
15.31,
yeah.
15.32. So 3 or 4 cents. So as we're going into the CIP conversation and the rest of the levy conversation, I would really like to get it to where the levy doesn't change. I think a lot of things have gone up in the world, and I understand that, and things are more expensive everywhere, but if we can sharpen our pencils a little bit and keep it to where the taxes don't change for the citizens, at least, I think that would be, that'd be a good target.
For our 1/3 of it, yes.
Or, sorry, for our 1/3. I don't, well, I know the county
Are they
is,
looking to go down?
from what I've heard, they're gonna get to 30 cents, hopefully, off the levy, and they're aiming for 35. I don't know if that'll happen, that's just
That's awesome.
what I've kind of heard out of their budget
Is the
stuff.
school maintaining?
I asked the CFO of the school district, and she was headed to vacation, so wasn't quite ready on that yet. But
Gotcha.
I think they're going to be okay as well. But on our portion, at least, that's my thought as we're going through this. Is I'd like to try to find
Because if the county did 30 cents, we might be able to go below 40, because we're right close to being able to get to
correct.
39.
And I know they have to be down. I can't remember.
Oh, that's
Do
right.
you guys remember how much they have to be down by the next couple fiscal years?
Yeah, I don't
I think
remember.
they're FY '29.
They gotta get to, like,
also, and it
350.
has to be
Yeah, 350. I think they were at, right, 4?
Something. They got to get to
410.
they got to get to 350,
Yep.
and they were going to try to do 10 or 15 cents a year. But I think, from what I'm hearing, they may be able to do double that this year, and then. and
That's
work
why Bill
through.
got all those trucks.
Maybe.
No, I'm kidding.
Maybe. That's my thought as we're going through this. I just kind of wanted to let that go before anybody.
So I guess the question,
Start it
Anita,
out.
is we probably have to get your handy dandy calculator. Mine is, if we're just looking at the debt service levy to shave 3.5 cents off, what would we need to, dollars would we need to take off there? That can be our equation later.
Yeah, so, because the number that's in there for the pre-levy for the FY '26 issuance is an interest-only payment of like $475,000, I think,
For this, you mean?
for this
Okay.
CIP. Yep.
Sure. Yeah.
So, can you also figure out what the debt service levy will have to look like next year based on the principal payment when it kicks in?
I mean, I would have to assume that the valuation stays the same.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep, I could do that.
Okay.
Yep.
That's gonna. It's gonna add another week to this then.
The,
Which was what I was trying to avoid. Yeah.
As
The
long,
one-
today is, oh, yeah, for the proposed levy.
We're
yeah.
trying.
March 5th, it's the,
So, I guess as we're going through this, can the levy go down from what we post as a proposed levy?
Yes.
yes.
So it's like a not to exceed proposal.
Yeah.
Yep.
I see.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
and that's what I was just gonna say.
Well, and you
that
can, and you,
if-
and
yeah.
people, cities do this, not saying we have to do this, but they'll put like 1545, and then they'll come back and say, we brought it to 1528.
Sure.
I mean, they do that all the time.
Yeah, which is
You look
fine.
like a hero.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just- yeah.
Yeah, so like what we're looking at right now is not changing anything internally here. We're looking at 1532
And trying to get to
and
1528.
trying to get it to
No,
1528.
no, not trying. We'll get to 1528.
Yeah,
We'll
but the idea that we're already way in the ballpark
Yeah, we're
is
close.
good news.
Yeah.
So that we're just, you said it right, Mayor, you said, let's sharpen our pencils.
Yeah. Or pens, whatever.
Yeah.
Inker pins.
Okay. I have a couple questions
Yep.
on the CIP. I didn't ask them the other night because we were it's kind of a
Oh,
long
yeah,
night.
right,
But
yeah.
anyway, okay. Quiet zone project. What's the drop dead date on that?
We're
Like,
in
when
it
does that have to be done?
right now.
Right
We've
now?
stalled them for a couple of years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna.
Jason did his best to hold him because they wanted
All
us
right.
to do it initially, and he was able to get a temporary crossing at Second Avenue South.
Okay. So they're not gonna extend any longer, even if we kick and scream.
Oh, I don't think we want to do that. because
Okay.
we have a really good relationship with the CP,
Yeah.
and they extended it a couple of years.
Okay.
Um,
Fair enough.
The payment, they might not send us an invoice for another 18 months, I don't know, but I just think we better.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good question, though, yeah.
Okay.
Because we signed an agreement with it, so
Fair enough.
that was the only reason we got that quiet zone established.
The push-pull facility,
Yep.
can we use the money from the sale that we're having to do that? So it's not on a borrowing?
Yeah, so right now I have, Jason and I are planning for 650,000, and what we're doing, not to get in the weeds, but we're gonna basically put a, nice operations center trailer out there with bathrooms and stuff, so they can contact the UP, and we're gonna put an overhang over the track where the engine would sit. So you can still do loading and unloading, but it's not a full building, but it could be in the future. And I was using 300,000 from this, and I was using 377,000 from the land sale of Project Stack or Super 8 Logistics that we just did. But I don't know if we could probably get there and not have anything covering the rail if we did 300K, because that's probably what the operations building is going to be, connecting utilities, hooking that all up, getting that going. We are in the process of the RFQ just went to the attorneys to review.
Okay.
And we're going to have people come in and interview for that. So we haven't got into the specifics because they may want to, because we haven't talked about leasing and all that. But that could come out. I'm stalling on your answer, but I was trying to see if I could get to 300K, but I don't know if we can, because Jason originally was about at $1 million when we talked about what we want to do, because you got to put concrete in there because that allows the semi trucks to drive in there. But then we talked about also, could we rent out that, because of the neighbor that's coming in wants to do transloading using our facility. Could we lease some of that to maybe get some of those dollars back?
Okay.
Jason's sitting up.
I'm just looking,
Yeah.
I'm looking at that project, and obviously we got some good news the other day.
Yes.
It's not
yeah.
finalized, but
Yep.
it's good news,
Yep.
right? We
Yep.
have a sale that we approved. And I'm thinking if that stuff, we could hold tight until we have that cash, and
Well-
we could use cash for that instead of
And I know,
borrowing.
and I know Jason will like this. We could use the cash from the sale and get the operation center set up there and hold on the structure until the following year. Because I mean, he or she that does this operations can leave their engine outside.
Right.
Our goal was to have a building where they could pull it in, do maintenance on it, in winter time. Because this right now we expect like at least close to, when all three parties are in, close to 11 to 12,000 cars. So you're moving 27 cars, and you could do that twice in one day. You know what I mean? Because you could move it in, and then you got to move it out. And so that's a lot of moving with an engine. So you just can't use like I'm not sure what they call them, Jason, that when you have a truck and you can put it on the rail, but it's just a pickup truck that can pull stuff, onesie, twosies. This would actually be an engine that would do that. So,
I popped your slide to the Rail Park Fund,
oh, gotcha.
because that is on the agenda.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So this illustrates the sale to
Yeah.
Project MG. That's the net number after the
Yep.
option payments are taken out of it. The proceeds, the sale of bond is from the CIP, would get transferred into here. And then legal services, the $634,000 is the payment to the county, and the $300,000 then is the project that's on the CIP. So revenues less expenses leaves $2.9 million, and the fund balance, right, well, as of 12/31 was a negative 3.2. So if all of that would happen, that fund balance is way better than it's been
Ever.
since 2009.
Yeah,
Okay.
we could do it.
There could be money to go in there to,
Yep. I have,
this is seriously
yeah.
carried a negative
Oh, forever.
$1 million balance for
Yeah.
years.
Yep.
we're gonna be close to zero.
Good.
And we're gonna have some money that comes in there because part of that moving of the rail cars, there's a cost in there that comes to the city that gives us dollars to do the maintenance on the track, which will be performed by that third-party contractor. But that's part of the cost of moving those cars, goes into a bucket for the city that covers the maintenance of the track too.
So I guess maybe
Yep.
the point that I was making is just round that 2.9 expenses number up to just 3 million, or sorry, revenue less expenses, just round it up to 3 million. That would leave a deficit fund balance of $296,000. We could pay for that project out of there, leave the fund at a deficit balance, and then it would get fed by what Matt's talking about for those.
Yep, down the road.
lease payments.
So maybe that's a good one we could use for that.
Okay.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
All right.
So that would come off the CIP, we wouldn't need
Yeah.
to do that on the CIP then?
If we
No.
can fund it that
I would
way.
keep it on there and I would just zero out that 300K.
Okay,
Just, it's still there, just we're keeping track of it. We currently, right now, have 377 aligned from Project Stack sale to put towards that right now. So we'll have to have
Okay.
Jason do his engineering prowess and figure out what that can get us to get going, or go negative.
True, but I
Oh.
am not taking that into consideration, that fund balance will change by the
Oh.
sale of Project Stack.
Oh, that's
So
right.
it probably won't be negative.
Oh, that's right,
come
because we're
that
gonna have
time.
another $1 million that goes in there.
Right.
yeah,
Okay, good.
so we can do that.
So we can do that.
That's good.
Yep.
Because I mean,
Yep.
Is the structure and all that stuff, is that a requirement of a
No,
third party, or we're just
but we just
trying
wanted to
be
make it very nice because we could increase the lease amount.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
If we just had like a wind shear thing,
Yeah.
you pay less, but if you have a nice building where you can have it in there, so.
Okay. Where's my next question? My next question is also on the agenda, but the Vision Iowa Fund, I never remember exactly what that can be used for. Because there's a decent balance in there right now, and some hotel motel money goes in there.
So that's on here, back, you're fine with me moving down?
Oh, no, you're good. You want me to hit it? You got it.
So,
Yeah, 550.
yeah, so
That's what I remembered.
we put a portion of the hotel motel tax money into here, and it's for, this fund is called Vision Iowa Capital Projects. But it's for like riverfront improvements. The last big thing that we took out of this was, the skate park for the recreation department went over what the cost had been on the CIP.
I'm gonna do it for
So
the
we took
Park
that
and
out of
Recs
here.
project.
It can be.
Does it have to be riverfront, or is it?
It's gotta have like a tourism. Yeah, flavor to
So
it.
like
So my thought was the
Erickson
the
Center?
pickleball, basketball resurface, can that come out of there?
Oh,
I think that'd be very strong.
yeah.
I
Are
mean,
you gonna hold tournaments there?
yeah,
People from out of town can come? Yeah.
I think,
So the 125, we could basically.
I was thinking, no, the 225.
Oh, I'm sorry,
above it.
I
The
did it wrong.
225, not bond
Oh,
for
right here,
that.
yep.
Use that out of the Vision Iowa
Well, that's
Fund.
525. You already got your 5 cents back.
I'm working really hard here. I got more. I got more.
I got more.
The 125 for the air handler is extremely important.
Yeah.
That's got to stay for sure. The bike trail's got to stay. My other thought was, hold on, what's that? Yeah.
Yeah, it is only one, right? Or is that two?
There's 2 on there.
I was thinking one end loader. Yeah, I saw one drive by today pushing
Ryan.
snow, and it looked really, really good. I was very pumped about that. Let's see here. I got that one. Generally, the one thing, if you go down a little bit too,
Yep,
I'm
yep.
skipping around. So
Oh,
this
down here?
bottom stuff.
Yep.
It makes me really uneasy that we're putting that on a 15-year note. These are $10,000-$15,000 items.
I think we get Jurgensen Park
I
could be
really-
taken care of at 15K.
That really,
Oh, it's IT though, sorry.
I really don't like
visible.
that stuff on that long of a note, because I mean, that's paying interest on
Well,
those items.
but the
that
fiber
are-
optics will be good because they have long legs.
Right.
All these are.
My-
The first two fiber optics
Yeah, they're all-
items
yeah.
could come out of Fund 488.
All tourism
That's,
down
yeah,
there in public
that's a good idea.
Correct. So that was my other thought.
Oh,
was,
these?
Do those consider to be tourism that we could use the Vision Iowa Fund to? Because that fund keeps getting replenished with hotel motel money. It's not going to
Yeah.
be depleted.
You mean the 90,000?
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause those
The-
are all, what's the paying for? Lights, Brian?
Yes.
Yeah, that's related.
My other thought is we generally get bond premium off of this stuff, right?
Oh, true.
We have, yeah.
If
for the-
if we do, it's generally over 231,000 that we get in bond premium, isn't it? Or some
It ha- yeah, it has been,
It
I
has
think.
been, right?
Yep.
So those type of items I think should be used out of that type of fund, right? So like I said, putting 15 grand for MTA shop equipment on a 15-year loan, it just boggles my mind. I think we should be budgeting things like that to be paid in cash and not extended out.
Well, this is a 12-year loan, if
Oh.
that makes you feel like.
It doesn't.
Darn it, 12-year loan. So,
But even fiber optics to me fall under that hotel motel for, especially since it's for the showboat, the candlelight and the marina. Those are 3 major tourism, you know what I mean?
Yeah, even
Yeah.
Jurgensen Park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jurgensen Park brings
Jurgensen
people in for
Park.
tournaments. They in soccer, they do the football
Yep.
there. They do all that
It
stuff.
looks like the fiber optics are probably gonna go off to RWRF, right?
Yeah, that's for the pump stations in Skata, yep.
The
Yeah.
2 bottom ones are, but the 2 top ones
Could be done.
are-
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's 96,000.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean RWRF has 30 grand that they could do that stuff in it, right? That fund maybe. That's coming from rates and things like that.
Well,
Not
maybe-
today, but.
Yeah.
Not today. It could,
Yeah, I
right?
getcha, I getcha.
Especially in October.
Well,
Yep.
and if you go back to, just go back up, we got the Jurgensen Pavilion Playground. If we're talking Jurgensen Park total, you can put that in that fund too, because that is a tourism.
Yep, the 75K.
related.
Well,
Yep.
we're up to 410. I just did some quick math.
Ah,
If you do the,
For Jurgensen.
if, starting at the top, if you do the Parks and Rec tennis court resurfacing, that's $225,000. if you take that off the CIP and flip it over to Fund 488, if you take down under information technology, if you take the 81,110 and the 15,000 and you take that off the CIP, put it into fund, to pay it out of Fund 488, and then if you take the 90,000 all the way at the bottom, you're at $410,000.
And the 300 off there for the drop push pull.
But that-
Well, no, we're just using the 488 fund.
Oh,
to pay
sorry,
for that.
for a
Yep.
488 fund. Oh, yeah,
Yeah, the
okay.
300 would just drop off.
So that's 410.
Matt, I'm gonna steal them off
No, good.
here again.
I think that's probably enough of that fund at the moment.
Yeah.
Well, but you just cleared 410.
We just leave, that leaves us 148,000 in there,
That's fine.
which I think is a decent,
We should focus on using that fund like
Yeah.
it should be used on a more regular basis.
Yeah, it has kind of just accumulated cash.
Yeah.
The two biggest things since I've been here that have come out of this fund is the skate park overrun, and we did some upgrades of the showboat, like painting it and that.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was $300,000, yeah.
It's not your slush fund, Josh, but we're gonna use it for tour. I'm just messing with you.
I honestly don't care where the funds come from, it actually benefits people.
Yeah, he doesn't have to wait till the,
Right,
Yeah.
there you go.
I like that.
All right.
okay, so
What else we
recap,
got? And
recap. oh,
One,
good.
one end loader, that's another 250.
Yep, so recap is, and I don't think I can on this PDF, but we have the 300,000 for push pull.
Yep,
I'm sliding down. We had the
225.
225 for the tennis court pickleballs.
Yep,
We had the 120, nope, sorry, where's Erickson's,
250, oh.
yeah, I
Did we
missed-
say for sure the public works end loader?
yep, 250 from there.
Yep.
And then.
The first two items under information technology,
Yep, and I missed one though.
all the way to the bottom, the public works 90,000.
We're talking the 75 for the Jurgensen playground?
Yes, that's one I missed, 75 for Jurgensen Playground. So both Parks and Rec on there for the pickleball and the
and he
Jurgensen.
doesn't have to wait. Get
And
him
that's,
scheduled.
and that's basically $300,000 because it's 75 and 225.
That's 300.
Yep, 300K
Plus the other 300 is 600.
plus the 250,
Plus the 250 is 850.
plus the 400 and, or whatever you put down. Oh, no, that's
No,
part of it,
that's
that's
just
mixing.
that.
Where
Yeah,
you at,
so
where you at?
we're at 850.
Yep,
And then if you,
81,
if all that stuff's gone,
Yep.
we find a way to do all that. Now we're at 1
Almost million.
1,081,110. Right? So we're saving a lot of interest right now. $1 million on 12 years at 4% or 5%. That's a
hey, and
lot
I
of
throw this
interest.
one at you, I throw this one at you. All that great savings you're able to
Yep.
do and using that 488 fund, once you put the second loader back on. I've seen if he's listening. No, I see he wasn't listening. You heard that, Brian, right? Brian,
What?
I was supporting to put the second loader back on. I wasn't getting any support.
Your street will never be plowed again.
Yes.
Please, they sit next to Scott's driveway.
All right.
You good
Okay.
on that?
Are we good on that? Is there any?
We'll make an update and then we'll take a look at how that then flushes out for the debt service levy.
A couple other items, just while we're here doing it. I'm fine with the IT cameras, but the talking destinations, because the drivers just aren't doing what they're supposed to do for $100,000 doesn't settle well with me. And I'm not necessarily opposed to talking destinations, but I would rather just see us do the IT this year and then maybe look at a policy where they actually start saying where they're stopping.
Dennis, was that a directive that we received? No. Okay,
Yeah.
just want to check.
That was, yeah, it was just because the drivers aren't saying, right, Dennis? Yeah. Yep, yep. So I would like to try to, I think it sounds cool, right? But not 100,000 cool for me. I understand the camera thing, so we have. if
Would you
something
volunteer to ride and then announce the stops?
We'll get you a Wi-Fi hotspot.
So that's just my thoughts on that one. I also, the defibrillator upgrade for 440,000. Again, I'm not opposed to it, but it's part of the ambulance service. I really think we need to step back, look at the revenue from the ambulance and look how it filters through, and then figure out how we start setting aside money for items like that, such as ambulance replacement, defibrillators, things associated with that service. And so I'm a little torn on spending $500,000 on that at this time as well. Other than that, I think a lot of these projects are good projects. I don't really want to go through and start, nitpicking a bunch, you know what I mean?
So you're saying like, take the talking off and make sure it's on the list for next year? Do the IT to start and then go from there?
Yeah,
what
I
you're
think the
saying?
cameras, in the camera thing kind of important. Yeah. So I think I want to leave the cameras, yeah. But I would like to pull the talking destinations and the defibrillator thing, I don't think it's an urgent thing that has to happen this year. I know, Chief, we have a couple new ones right now, right? Newer, one. Yep. So.
I think with the good savings that you guys just came up with, I think that'd be okay, and then we can continue working on it. What I'll do is I'll update this chart, and for like the drop, push, pull, I'm gonna leave it in there and put a note that it's gonna be rail park fund. Just, so.
You're gonna leave it on the total cost, right?
Yeah, on the left, yep, on column, whatever that is.
Would you just put it under other?
Yep.
Just
I'll put
Now,
over another
it
fund.
I think
other,
this
yeah.
conversation's been good too, because we have not really cut a whole lot of projects, but we have really lowered the borrowing amount by
Oh,
just
yeah, by a ton.
looking at
yeah.
Yep.
things. So
Nope,
I
good
feel
stuff.
like it's been a good conversation.
I think now you're way below 1528, so we're gonna have to redo it.
Heck no. We're gonna get down. It's gonna be
So
great.
I guess I just
Yep.
want to ask a question a different way, for the chief. How many of your defibrillators are past their lifespan?
He might need one.
Well, because I think it's a good idea to have the fund run differently, but if,
Currently have 7, 6 of which are past the 8-year industry or the 10-year standard. One
So
newer
the
one.
10-year standard, so we'd have to set aside 44 grand a year for defibrillators only. There you're getting
No,
it?
no, not a year. No,
44 times 10 is 440.
yeah, but they have a 10-year
no,
lifespan.
10-year lifespan. We wouldn't have to address this for another 10 years.
Yeah, I know he's saying save money.
Yes.
No, like,
For 10
if we're to set money aside for
Yep.
defibrillators,
You
right
probably need
now, we to
500K
do-
in 10 years, but yes.
Yeah, when you set aside $50,000 a
Yeah,
year
but
just for-
you're not gonna wanna buy a new defibrillator every year, right?
No, I'm saying
Yeah.
you need to set aside for your
To
replacement reserve.
save up money for
He's
that
like
10
putting it
years.
in a fund, like a savings account fund.
Yeah.
I'm
So
not,
that,
I would love if you'd take all the ambulance revenue and put it in
I know,
my
if
fund.
you could just have it, right? I know.
yeah.
That would be,
Yep. Yep. I
that would be
agree.
temperamental right now.
Okay.
So, any other questions on that?
No, I thought I had asked that during CIP, and
They're all
that was the answer.
They're all the same technology currently.
Yeah.
I just have 6 that are past their service life. One newer one that it's actually an older one, but it's newer because we bought it more recently. Again, the 8 would be all the same model, newer technology.
And they probably don't service them anymore, right?
You can buy used parts for them. There's no service agreements.
Okay.
And the 8 request up from what you have is so that every vehicle has one in it, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
With our call volume going out, we'll end up having a truck left back that doesn't have one.
Okay.
And, we want to prevent that truck from showing up to a CPR without one.
Okay.
So there is an extra one in there to play with if you decided that you still wanted to cut
I'm
something
not
off
gonna
of
get
there.
that picky.
No.
It's
I
either
think
fund it with ambulance revenue or
Yeah.
bond
No, I
for it.
think that's a good idea.
if you leave that on here, then you just have to create a plan going forward, knowing that we're. Is
Yeah,
that what you're
and you
saying? or
guys
no?
cut so much,
Yeah.
I can keep my mouth shut.
What's
Yeah,
that?
if I'm gonna, yeah, I'd like a plan.
Take-
If
take
I'm gonna
those-
agree to it.
Take those scissors away.
Okay.
We can do that, we can, every year, at the end of the year, when we reconcile what the ambulance revenue was, we can set up a plan to set aside a percentage of it or a minimum of $50,000 for equipment replacement. We can do that.
Yeah, I think we need to look at, and yeah, thank you, I appreciate that. We gotta look at, like, the ambulance it may not be feasible to set aside enough replacements for everything. However, something's better than nothing.
Right,
We
yeah,
still
and
do
I wasn't thinking
125K
just the
on 88.
defibrillators,
Yeah.
we would look at a percentage of, you could go, oh, if it's over
So we still
budget,
do
it's
125.
Yep.
all of it, if
Yep.
it's a percent.
That's the other reason I
Yeah.
wanna see, yeah. Like, what are we actually spending versus making, and, yeah.
So I guess I do still want to ask my question.
Yes.
Or put my confusion out there. Why does the ADA curb ramp and sidewalk maintenance not fall under pavement management?
Good question.
Dr.
Jason?
Kraft?
We just can't be fitting, a bunch of stuff into one.
Well, you can divide it up however you want behind the scenes.
We can go up to 2.6 million or whatever, same thing. So the pavement management program, as I've said all before, I mean, people like to have the streets fixed.
Yeah.
And we have an obligation to fix streets. We're trying to keep it at PCI at 65 or less. We're gonna go down to 60, and we're gonna be able to stay there if we spend $4 million a year. But these first couple years, we're gonna spend far less, 2.4. I can send you all the report if you want, but it's, so really 2.4 is stretching it. So just spending that $200,000, slicing and dicing and putting it in pavement management program, you have to increase that to 2.6. So I don't think we should cut that. It's a standalone item. It's not only fixing sidewalks and ADA curb ramps as part of the pavement management program. We already do that. This is a citywide sidewalk program, which
Right,
you and I
right,
worked on.
yes.
So it's more problem sidewalks that haven't been maintained and need to be fixed. So that's what this is for. And whatever we don't spend through that sidewalk program, which we still need to come back to the cow and talk about it, we would spend on ADA curb ramps. Because there are still some deficient curb ramps that won't be fixed along with the pavement management program over the next 10 years. So some outliers that won't just fall as part of pavement projects.
So you're just breaking it down more on this side of it as opposed to behind.
And I think you and I talked about, with Greg and Pat, talked about $200,000 being a good number to start with.
Yeah.
And if more people take advantage of the program, if we run out of money in a few months, we can look at increasing it. If we don't spend it all, then we can look at decreasing it, but we've got to start somewhere. There are sidewalks around town that are, they just need fixed, and people can't afford to fix them. We've had that discussion,
Yep,
so
all right.
want to keep it
We,
separate.
we get some funding for ADA curbs though, right?
No, we used to fund ADA curb ramps out of the road use tax fund.
Oh,
We've
the
been-
125K.
Yes. And
Okay.
we've been trying to not spend road use tax money on capital projects, which is why this year I think the street department's actually gonna take on a lot more of the concrete street patching and some of the sidewalk projects on their own, but there's only so much those guys can do too. So we don't get funding set aside for that.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else on the? So what did that bring our number to? I don't even remember.
No,
Okay.
we're gonna have to
I
listen to
can
the minutes.
update it and send it out.
Okay.
It ended up
Like
being
tonight.
about $1 million.
I think it was a little over.
but,
If you add the bottom portion down there.
Right, at the bottom portion, yeah, it was just a little over, yeah. Right.
Perfect.
I think Anita would be, and I can help you, I think it would be good is we put some notes on it too, so we have historically, then we can create a new one.
Yeah, and I would create, like Greg suggested, the 300,000 for the push.
Yep,
and
move it
pull
over.
Facility, we move it over to the other column.
And then
we
put
a,
fund, yep.
Comment on there where it's
I like
coming
it.
from.
And then the other homework piece is I'll need Anita's help, but then figure out with that bond changing the total amount, then how's that change the debt service levy?
Yep. And then how that debt service levy looks when principal payments start. You got
Yep,
that.
the next year.
Yeah.
Yep. Did you get all your things?
I was thinking, it was the talking signs,
Yep,
the one end loader,
yep,
75 for that,
yep. Did you get the 225?
225,
And then the 300?
300.
So you're thinking no end loaders now?
He's not.
Nope, he's not.
Not, zero end
Not even
loaders.
listening.
We're gonna get some shovels.
All right.
That'd be fine.
So what do you have for, let's see. Give me-
Brian
give me
doesn't
real
look
quick and I'll do
amused
count.
by
So
any.
300, 300.
300,
Especially since
225.
we just weathered our very first
75.
measurable snowfall.
250.
I heard a lot of
100.
good comments on Facebook.
Was it 81 below? Yeah, fiber.
Well, I
That we
think
move.
we could
No,
probably
we're
find
talking
all of
about
this,
you.
can't we?
So 231.
231,
Yep.
110.
Yep,
I think it's just over $1 million.
yep. So that's,
I'll update that tonight, send it out in an email, so we all have.
Okay.
The only thing I
yeah, so
won't
950
know
plus
the
2.
It's nine,
What, the-
950 plus 231,
It's basically 1.18 million.
1.18. That we
Well,
took
that
off.
change.
brings it exactly to 9 million then, or 10.
No,
actually.
no, lower.
No.
It'd be at 9.9 or 9.8.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everybody okay?
Yep. Good job.
Thank you.
Could have done better.
The only thing I can't send out tonight is what the,
Oh, yeah, the
what
next
that
year.
changes that payment to that we're gonna levy for. I'll
What's
have to
that?
get
Okay.
the payment that we'll have to pre-levy for. I'll have to get that from PFM,
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
and that'll change the documents that Lisa received already.
Yeah. That's all
We should
right.
calculate how much interest we saved by shifting those two.
No, we're
It's
gonna
gonna
make,
be a lot.
no, and when we say everything gets in line, because we're all building towards March 5th, right?
Well, with this, we are having it on the next week.
Oh,
or
on the 25th.
February 25th, agenda,
Yeah.
and then she also
Yeah.
has to publish.
Did you do by calculator? See, 11, 8, 1.
But yeah, then the debt service levy is part of the
110.
proposed levy, but right now we have it at
This would be
1532.
1,
It can come down from that.
111, 110. Here it is.
Cool.
If you do a $1,181,110 loan at 4% on 12 years, your total interest is $307,986.
Sounds like an end loader.
$307,986. Now, that's not the exact calculation because I'm sure the bond is calculated a little differently, but,
Do you want to go manufacturing next?
okay,
Yeah, dropped onto the capital project.
do we
Yeah.
need a motion to approve that plan as adjusted? Or,
Can't we just prove it when they get it all?
Because it's still going to come to you,
Next-
it's still going to
next
come to a
meeting.
council meeting,
Yeah.
Roger,
Yeah.
we'll just, okay, we're good. So we're moving on to
the manufacturing.
capital projects.
Yep.
Okay,
So the first one is the manufacturing drive project. So this is just showing for FY '24 that we're gonna borrow $4.8 million from the CIP. And then this is projecting what that money will be spent in that fiscal year. These are kind of in and out. These are fairly quick to run through. So unless anybody has any questions, I'm gonna move on to the next one.
Okay.
The next one is the rail park fund, and we kind of already talked about that. Just paying for there won't be the proceed for the sale of bonds up there in that top, right above the total revenue number, but the expenditure will still be there. And then we should have money in there.
And we'll add stack,
Yep.
the 1.11.
Well, that's this year, isn't it?
Oh, well, if we close, yes, we're supposed to close by April, yes, so sorry, that'll be
Yeah,
this
so
year.
that's in FY '25. So
So
what that
stack
would,
is not in this analysis at all.
No.
So our
Correct.
actual
It's-
negative
cash
is
balance.
about 2 million.
Yeah,
yeah, the cash balance will pop up.
yeah.
Okay.
The pavement management fund, again, this is just $2.4 million of bond sales, $2.4 million of projected street improvements. And then Fund 488, that one is changing by,
410?
411,110.
Yep.
Just say 412.
you don't want to take the 75 for I noted that we were taking the 75,000 for the, Jurgensen Pavilion
Oh, yeah,
Playground.
that is correct.
Oh, you're right,
Yeah.
so,
it's
That's coming out. of-
486.
485, yeah.
yep,
Yep. So
Okay.
I will update the slide and have Lisa's office update it so you can see what that looks like.
Okay.
That's it for the capital project funds.
What was number A there? Bond proceeds fund?
That's just the CIP. I got carried away.
What's that?
I got carried away. That's the CIP.
Oh,
Right
okay.
here.
It really is just this showing the
Okay.
bond proceeds coming into the fund, what gets transferred out to proprietary funds, and then the expenses that come out of it. It's really just in, out.
Okay.
Is there a motion to approve these 4 capital projects funds as,
Motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the capital project funds. Any other discussion on any of these? Can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Shemmers. Seeley.
I told him I said okay.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Oberon.
Yes.
Kearns.
Yes.
Bill, is there something you'd like to say?
Absolutely not.
I said nice haircut, and he goes, he was told he had to get a haircut, so,
How did that come out?
no.
Okay, then we're gonna move on to number 10, but this is gonna be our number 4 for today, which is the tax levy special revenue funds. So these are illustrated on the certification of budget page that everybody has. So this fund is the fund that pays the property and liability insurance. We are able to levy for that, for general liability for the general fund activities, but not the proprietary funds. And those would have, these dollars, the
Yeah,
money for those
764.
costs would have shown up in the proprietary fund.
Oh, 840, sorry.
So I have $840,000 on the levy for this. And then it's just broken up by those various insurances. And when we talked about the proprietary
It's
funds,
up at
we
top,
talked about,
liability property. Sorry.
we talked about, how I sat in on an ICAP webinar and they said to expect a 5% increase in the liability items and a 2% increase in the property items. So this is the support for that line item on the certification of budget page. The next one is the police and fire retirement fund. So, we are able to levy as part of the employee benefits levy for what is the retirement for police and fire, the municipal fire and police retirement system. So that's how this breaks down. I did use a little bit of money on here. I do have some fund balance in the fund as it sits right now, and so I bought this levy down with $92,963, keeping in line with our fund balance policy. Is there any questions? Okay, the FICA, Medicare, and IPERS fund. I am just
79
illustrating there what the levy is as part of the employee benefits levy for the FICA, Medicare, and IPERS on general fund employees and road use tax fund employees. And then just what the breakdown is for those items. And then I'm not quite hitting the fund balance reserve policy there, but as these all roll up, it'll be fine. Lastly, the employee benefits levy fund. This is where we levy for the cost of health insurance. Health insurance, life insurance, dental insurance, workman's compensation, unemployment costs, and what we are projecting for on-the-job injury claims. Last year, we had a really large one. A retired employee from the fire department had an issue, and it was a big issue. It was a big bill. So I am leaving this fund in a bit of a deficit, but as these roll up, it should be fine. The only other thing that I'll call out on here is the line item that's highlighted. That's a transfer in from our self-funded health insurance fund. We have a very healthy reserve in there. And so if Matt goes to the next slide, this is partially what's helping to keep our levy at $15.32 is buying down that levy because if you look at the totals at the bottom, the expected balance on 6/30/25 is $4.7 million. Revenues less expenses is $1.2 million. That would bring the projected ending balance on 6/30/26 to $3.9 million. We do have a policy to keep 6 months of reserves in the fund, and that would equate to $1.7 million. So 3.9 minus the 2 that I'm illustrating keeps us at that 6-month reserve.
So this is good this year to buy down the levy, but it sets up next year not
So what
great.
could happen next year is we did increase our premium equivalency rate by 5%. Remember, we all ugged as we went through the proprietary funds because it looked like health insurance was bumping up quite a bit. Those premiums that we charge ourselves come into this fund. So if our experience is better than what we expected, we will continue to build fund balance.
But we're still probably more than likely would not have $2 million to work with to buy down a levy next year.
Probably not 2 million, no.
Yeah. Okay. So one more thing when you're doing your homework, I'm curious to see what the levy would actually be without this buy down
Okay.
to give myself an idea for what next year is actually setting up to be.
Okay.
Okay.
We had a mid-year review in January of our health plan where they were projecting the 5% increase.
Yep.
But that's really 5%. Typically every year, okay, so let me see if I can simplify this a lot. We purchase reinsurance so that we don't have a claimant that has $1 million claim that it costs us $1 million.
Yep.
So we purchase reinsurance at a $85,000 attachment point. So let's say I get really sick and I go into the hospital and I've got something and all of a sudden now my claim is $90,000 that has been paid out of our self-funded health insurance fund. Reinsurance kicks in at $85,000.
Yep.
So if I spend $90,000, the plan gets $5,000 back.
Yep.
Typically every year since I've been here, we have had probably close to 6 or 7 large claimants. This year at our mid-year, we had 2.
Good. Good.
So even though the cost of health insurance is going up, we have not had as many of those large claimants. Now, the thing that's not so great about that is we have our reinsurance at $85,000 and we pay a premium on that. It's gonna be hard to come back down from that.
Yep.
To save any money.
Yep. Okay. Okay.
Let me make that note real quick.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, and that's also a function, frankly, of the relative age of our staff.
Right.
And family, right. And so, as we are getting younger, essentially, as an organization, we really are. It's cyclic.
Yeah.
That's what, these big claims that we're talking about are going to happen not as frequently as they have been happening, potentially.
Hopefully. And we're
Yeah.
doing things, we've got emails into Cottingham and Butler, who is our third-party administrator of our self-funded plan.
Well, yeah, we got some data back, and when we went back out to them, because they literally sent the email the day we had to discuss it here last week. I went back to them to do a couple other things for that note I sent you to see if we could look at setting a baseline that the city pays no more than X each year. Okay. And then whatever's above that would then make that percentage change for the user. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they work with large companies and municipalities all the time, and they're aware what our demographic is, and they can put our information into models, and they can say, oh, well, this other municipality X, whatever, went to this. We could be partially self-funded. There's other things that we need to look at.
Good. I'm happy. So we're just waiting for more information.
We are, and once we get that, though, then the challenge will be is when we go into union negotiations. That's
As long as the plan design doesn't change, so say right now our single person deductible is $800. If we change it to $5,000, that would have to be negotiated and,
Yep.
Yeah.
But we can't say,
That is a way to keep premiums lower.
Right.
By setting a higher deductible.
Yeah.
Yep.
absolutely. If we implemented a spousal carve-out, if your spouse works somewhere where there's insurance, they must take that insurance and not be on ours.
Yep.
Those are plan design changes that have to be negotiated.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, so I made a note to your point about what does the 2 million buy down, what does that take off of the levy? But other than that, is there an approval on the tax levy special revenue funds?
I'll go ahead and make that motion for, what are we talking about, our item 10 and item 11 on our previous agenda.
All right, we have a motion and a second for the tax levy special revenue funds self-funded insurance fund, health insurance fund, sorry. Is there any other discussion on those items? Can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Shemmers. Seeley.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Oberon.
Yes?
Kearns.
Yes.
Okay, then I would like to move to item number 6.
6?
And these are all departmental special revenue funds. And so typically every year, we just establish some budget authority in these because they'll get some donations in, or like this first one, Fund 215 is a traffic safety grant for the police department. They'll run a governor's traffic safety program. You guys help me out. What is that? This DTSB, and it's just pulling people over on a certain day so people
Yeah, you
don't
have to do
stay
so
out.
many a year.
PTSD.
And then twice a year, you have to do like certain projects, and then guys can just run the cost of that.
Yep, so they'll get money to do those programs, and then they buy equipment type items out of there. So that's what this is illustrating. The next one, the tobacco compliance program, Fund 218, they'll go and do sting operations and try to catch people.
We just had a bunch of those.
We did.
Yep, selling.
Very good program.
The next one is National Night Out. Of course, you guys know they hold that awesome event down on Riverfront every year. They get some donations in and they'll spend them. I did include on here what the fund balance was right now. $6,158.46. The police department can, decide what they're gonna spend that on, if there's gonna be something special for an upcoming year or something in that activity. Do you guys wanna say anything about any of these, or do you want me to just keep going? Okay, Fund 276, Fire Donation Fund, so this is the fire department getting donations and spending it on, these are special revenue funds, nothing with the tax levy comes into these are self-funded funds. So general donations, and they'll spend it on some equipment or whatever. This is just establishing small budget authority numbers. The smoke detector fund, they're expecting to get some donations of $2,000, and they'll buy some smoke detectors and go out and install them for people.
That's just from one company. I think they're waiting to do a press release, but that's one
Oh, they
company that's,
donated 2,000.
yeah. Mike, right? You're waiting on, we can't say anything yet? Oh, the $2,000 donation from a company for the smoke detector? Yeah, it's forthcoming, right? Yeah. Not public yet.
Then the FEMA boat, the CBR&E Fireboat Fund, they just have some, they've got some fund balance there, $51,574 as of 12/31. We're not projecting any money coming into this fund, but some boat repairs that come out of it for $5,000. The next one is the Recreation Department's summer camp program. They're expecting $70,000 in recreation registrations. And then there's personnel services that come out of there for the kids that get hired, or the young adults that get hired, well, just the people. They get hired to run the program. And then the expenses of $16,650. I just know that I would not be wanting to work in the program. They do a lot.
You're not a summer camp person?
No. I tried to volunteer in the toddler room of my church, and I was like, no, please don't put me in a cleaning crew or something. The fund balance as of 12/31 is $153,991. This fund has actually recouped a lot of money over the last couple of years. It used to run in a deficit, so.
It's a great program.
Yeah, and it's been around for a long time.
Oh, well,
The Tailgate and
That's
Tall
weird.
Boys Summer Concert Series, I'll just let Scott talk about this, because he provided this budget for me.
So the expense side of things is the budget that we put together with USA Concerts. That's the budget that they're expecting. It hasn't really changed a whole lot from year to year because generally the production and things like that are the same. I think marketing is up a little bit, which we do need some extra marketing just to attract more folks here. The revenues, obviously, it's kind of a shot in the dark. You don't know exactly what you're going to get, but we've kind of based this off of what we've had in the last few years. And we're obviously hoping this year to get to that break-even point. We have not in the first 2 years, but we're hopeful that this year we're going to get to that point with the new partnership that USA Concerts made. We have some more resources and some more things to kind of help grow this thing. So. And I guess I'll say at this time, we did have approval to work on a new contract, but we have not worked on that or got there yet. We're looking at getting through this year, and then we'll have that conversation. So.
The The next couple of funds are library funds. Susie, I know you're here. Do you want to talk about them?
Yeah, so the open access fund is actually called the Enrich Iowa Fund. It has three funds. One is open access, one is interlibrary loan reimbursement, and one is direct state aid. And the funds we use, our summer intern, we started last year, so that's out of this fund. Marketing, advertising, staff development, makerspace programs, youth programs, et cetera. And pretty similar to the donation fund, the Friends of the Library, when they raise money, they give us money, and then that goes into the donation fund. And then also the book memorials, we get a lot of people who die, and then in memory of them, they give us money. So a lot of that is in there. Also, we do adventure passes for the summer for the sawmill, and more staff development, youth programs, just all the extras that we have to do all those extra special programs. Thank you.
Thanks. Did it work out at the county, Susie?
It seems that it's good. It didn't say.
Okay. Susie was up there when I was up there for the airport.
So the county, for years have been giving us 6 libraries, $70,000. Now it's 104. So it seems like they're not gonna take that away.
Okay.
We are not a separate entity. They have to pay for serving rural residents, so we're not an external entity of the county, so we're hopeful that, but it's based on circulation. And then they split, there's like a split, like 70% I think is circulation, and then the rest is like split equally between the 6 libraries. DeWitt gets the most amount of money because they're pretty much central to all those rural residents. So we got about 18,000 this year, so that's, I think, higher than we normally have gotten in the past. Yeah, so, yeah.
Good job.
Okay, that's all of the departmental special revenue funds that are listed under agenda item number 6. Can I ask someone to make a motion to approve that?
Motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the special revenue funds. Any other discussion on them? Can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Shemmers. Seeley.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Oberon.
Yes.
Kearns.
Yes.
All right, the next item that I would ask to go through is approval of the road use tax fund. Is everyone fine with that? So I sent out, I think I sent out an email stating what we adjusted, and it was after the first budget workshop, so it was a couple weeks ago. But we had doubled up on a $500,000 item that we moved to $250,000 for some painting under street maintenance. Technical services, it's on page 4, Matt. I should have highlighted it on here. Did I highlight it on here? Page 4. Nope, go up. Oh, my pages are different. Okay, keep going up. I'm sorry. Technical services. It's right. Go up one more. It's this $300,000 number, yeah. I had 500 in there, and Jason and Brian had both given me a number for that, so I had 500 originally, and so we bumped that down $200,000. It's for line painting and contracted type things for roads that people do. I still kept the levying for the employee benefits in there, which is also, we just talked about those in the special revenue funds. So that brings this to having, revenues exceeding expenses of $221,576.87. I didn't bring my notes from that workshop, unfortunately, but that was the only thing that I had as a follow-up item. Does anybody have any questions on that? Jason or Brian, do you remember anything else that was a follow-up item? I think it was just that one line item.
To clarify that,
that $500,000 expenditure, because it was up from the previous year.
Do you know what the fund balance is in there? Because
Right now?
there's a few negative numbers in that FY23, FY24, and then we obviously had positive.
It's positive.
Okay.
It usually kind of hovers just right around the number that's left here, the 221,000. But I can make a note and send that information out.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Is somebody willing to make a motion to approve it?
So moved.
Very confident. A very confident second. We have a motion and a second for the road use tax fund. Any other discussion on that? Can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Shemmers. Seeley.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Oberon.
Yes.
Kearns.
Yes.
The next one that I would like to move to is item number 12, if that's fine with everybody. So the transit operating fund, last time when we met, we talked about what the levy would be, and I have $425,000 on that certification of budget. But the bigger thing was the transit capital fund, because you had a question for Dennis of if we could pass on the electric vehicles. Matt, can you pull up the next one, the transit capital one? So the answer to that was yes, that we could pass on those the electric buses and the equipment that goes with them. And then I asked Dennis to prioritize these, because as funding comes available, and I really should let Dennis talk, because he understands how this
And as he's walking up, remember, those electric buses, though, were replacing another bus. So then what he did was he then put them all in order and racked and stacked and said, which ones does he need to get for that? Ladies and gentlemen, Dennis Hart. Thanks, Jason Kraft.
What was the question?
Yes.
We talking about the,
How you basically, how you
well,
prioritize.
I didn't know what you want to know.
Well, two parts.
Well,
parts.
You know, basically, number one, we got to figure out whether we're going to move forward on the electric grant. Because if we don't, that goes right back in, and they go right to the top of the list of my
Replace.
priority. So that,
How
you
much
know,
money were those electric buses?
300K match.
I think our share was 300 something thousand.
And for you to do what are these two highlighted in yellow?
180.
That's the priority 1 and 2 that I built into
Wha-
the budget.
One of them,
Those aren't electric ones.
no,
right?
one of them is, but if we're going to vote, you know, if we're going to decide not to move forward with that, then it's got to go back in for it's not going to get funded on normal. It has to go back into the pool, but it's towards the top,
Well,
so.
how does it change your
so-
borrowing, not doing the electric buses?
So I had a transfer out of,
I think it's the same.
425.
no, I, right now in this budget that you can see right here,
Yeah.
I only have a transit out of the operating fund for the 2 highlighted local share amounts. Two
That's,
buses that are,
So 184, 185K.
okay.
yeah, and before it was, like
It was
1 point,
It was a lot more with the electric.
yeah, it was $822,511.54.
Yeah.
Three-
Dennis, you don't
yeah.
want those, do you?
Well, it's not whether I
Yeah.
want it.
Well, we have to
It's-
go-
I'll be long gone.
Yeah, we have to go back
It's
to,
what the council decides for the future,
yeah, so the council voted 7-0.
you know.
Well, if we get electric buses, then it's gonna be fire trucks and everything
So-
else that need to be electric.
So the council voted 7-0. We sent that to the state. We'd need to bring that back to you to have another vote on it and get a
Okay.
new resolution saying, or denying it, saying we need to send this off and say, we've changed our mind. We don't want electric buses.
I have asked them another question, whether, you know, because there's 3 vehicles involved on that electric grant, whether we can go, instead of doing the heavy duty and the medium duty, and just get the van.
Yeah.
So then we can get the work done at,
Anywhere.
you know, Ford, Dodge, wherever that van's made at. The other ones are, the middle buses are a third party. The heavy-duty buses are right from you know, the heavy-duty bus people. So,
The heavy-duty bus.
you know, yeah, so it's, it's not my favorite, it's not my favorite thing, but, you know, it's, I don't have to live with it.
Yeah, okay, good. So you don't
You know,
care.
because
Okay.
it's, I'm gonna be gone, so it's
When are
the
you
future.
retiring?
How about now?
If you don't approve the electric buses,
of the budget?
No, tomorrow.
I got a veto stamp somewhere.
Matt, when did we vote on that? And was it,
Oh,
was it
it's
because,
been-
in with
oh,
a
it's
different
probably
budget?
been, it's probably been
A year and a half.
a year, almost half, 2 years ago, and
I was
it's,
gonna say two.
yeah, and and it was because it was a pipe dream, because they were, the state of Iowa was pooling together to do numerous ones at numerous communities.
We were promised a lot to vote on that, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, what your promise is that out of that 300,000 we were paying, I think the state and federal was paying 1.8 million to include charging apparatuses that would go where they could get them charged either on the route or when they get back to home station. And
Yeah.
we've seen this play out before. We've seen other locations, bigger cities that had electric buses, and they switched back to diesel.
Yeah, let's revote.
That's the reason why I, you know, I've asked them that, and I haven't got the
Not only,
question about whether I can go just take the one,
Okay.
the smallest
not
van.
only that, and our mechanics really don't
They're
have a
not-
whole lot of
no.
experience with these electric
Well,
machines.
none.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not electricians,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
and they're afraid.
Nice.
So this, what you have proposed here includes our match for 2 buses. Okay, for this year.
185.
Yeah, and one of them was part of the electric grant.
It was going to be replaced by an
It
electric
was gonna be
one.
replaced out of that
Yeah.
300,000.
So,
Because it was already funded, but now if we're gonna pass on it, it has to go back in for.
okay,
the-
so
the
we'll have to have
competitive
a
pro-
resolution to, like, rescind.
Well, I think we just have to say, or a memorandum, you guys tell me, and we gotta write a memorandum, say we are no longer interested in this, and
Yeah.
let them tell us if we need a resolution with the mayor's signature, or I can just write them a note saying, we changed our mind.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Dennis, when you say that it has to be replaced for the electric grant, you're not talking about getting an electric bus. You're talking about it's reprioritizing and getting a diesel bus, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, because if
Mm-hmm.
you're not gonna, if we're gonna pass on the electric grant, because basically those things are funded, and if we pass on it, so they have to go back in the competitive hunt for the funding. So we wait till we get to the top to get them funded
Okay,
against the other vehicles in the state of Iowa.
okay.
Transit vehicles.
Okay.
So we can approve it, but you don't have to buy it till you get the funding.
What's that?
I said, we can approve it, but you won't buy it until you get the funding.
That's, you know, that's the way it's been. I mean, we've seen them roll 3, 4, maybe 5 years before we get funded.
Yeah.
So we could approve everything here, but unless the government's got a lot of money for transit, they won't be funded all in 1 year.
Okay.
But there is, in this budget, we just have these 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I have 2 light duties right behind it. I'm not sure if you have that highlighted with.
Yeah, your number 3 and 4.
Yeah, and I have a better opportunity to get those funded maybe this year.
And that's only 54,000 for 2.
The light duties?
Yeah, they're smaller, just a regular, like my paratransit buses, that's the
Yep.
size.
Yep.
Yep.
When you say this year, do you mean this fiscal year, FY '25?
I'm gonna talk to them, and we get some money that is, been left over, been designated for us, as operational money, and we might move it to capital. So that would mean this, possibly this year.
So 54K.
Dennis has, based on what I projected, well, what he has right now, he has enough money to do that match in this fiscal year, and we would just have to do a budget amendment to account for that.
Okay.
Okay.
For the 2 light duties, you're saying?
Yeah, the number 3 and
Yeah,
4.
and I'm pretty confident that's gonna happen.
Cool.
Because when we get the CARES fund, funding or the ERA, we did not spend our normal operational assistance. So we're gonna move that over. If we got, I asked them to see if we can get funding towards the new building, and after the fact, it's kinda hard. So,
All right.
Well, since you brought it up, could that have, that money ran you the whole year without levying again?
you have to have to get that money, you have to do it's a share, 50.
No, that money we already had.
We levied this year, we're levying this current year for the transit of $560,000.
Which is, we spent 6 something on that.
And it's not money we have on hand, it's like, I got the check, but I don't get the check until I spend so much to get it.
Yeah.
It's-
I'm talking about that other, wasn't that from COVID, that money?
There's American Rescue Fund
Or
dollars.
American
Yeah.
Rescue Fund
Rescue,
dollars,
yeah.
yeah.
We didn't, last year was the first time that we had levied in a couple of years for the transit because he had,
Yeah, you took my money away.
Yeah, but she said 560.
It's a pile of cash. It says 425 on here.
yeah, 560 is this current fiscal.
Oh,
Oh,
they were in.
okay, okay.
They were in.
Follow.
Gotcha.
425 is what I'm projecting for FY '26.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Meeting.
Okay.
And that leaves us with a healthy fund balance too, providing everything goes down as it's budgeted. The other thing that you guys asked when we were going through the general fund last week was what are those things that you could flex on, stay there.
Stay there.
Or that you could have, you know, the things that you absolutely have to do, or the things that you could do without. And Dennis took a look at it from a standpoint of, well, these are buses, I need somebody to drive them, I need to be able to put gas in them, and I need to keep them maintained. So the only thing that he's really able to do is look at his hours of operation, and he forwarded that email out to you guys, that said that if there were gonna be any cutbacks, it would have to be cutbacks in service.
That was perfect, Dennis, thank you for doing that.
And it,
Yep.
obviously, you've seen it, it affects the operational funding.
I don't think we want to do that. I don't.
No, I
at least.
don't,
No, but I appreciated that, that Dennis explained it and did what we asked.
Well, I talked to Anita, I said, you know, labor, insurance, fuel, I mean, it's parts, that's about,
Yep.
there's not much fluff in there to be able to cut it. We've done that. We did that 15 years ago or whatever, and never kind of got up a little bit, but not much.
Okay.
And I was gonna tell you, we can remove my 15,000 on, tools on that capital thing, just go ahead and pull it.
Yeah.
Could give me back my talking buses, but I'll,
15 for 100K.
You're gonna be gone, you don't care.
yeah. So no,
we can-
Plus, if those electric buses didn't talk with talking,
I think we can still do the 15K. Just find a
Yeah,
way not
it's
to
just gonna be
not to
funded
bond
differently.
for it.
Yeah,
I
we
just-
got a lot of older
yeah.
stuff, and I just threw that number out there, so I can do it when something major.
I think we can figure
Yeah.
out how to get it done for you. I didn't want to
Yeah.
get rid of it
No,
completely.
I'm fine either way, so if we need to remove it, I'm good with that, that's okay.
We'll get you hooked up. You guys need the
It
tools.
can't be this easy.
you're setting a really nice precedent. So, you know, for the other department heads, so.
I'll trade it for a loader for Brian, how about
Yeah.
that?
Thanks, Dennis.
So I didn't have that noted, so I need to know that real quick. If you can just pay for that,
The 15K.
yeah, from Fund 551.
They're doing musical chairs back there.
Make sure they don't start picking on him back there.
So the $425,000 in the, transit, in the other spreadsheet that we had pulled up before, the other report we had pulled up, is on the certification of budget to levy for that, for the transit fund.
Okay.
Yep, it's that highlighted number there. So, I don't have anything else to say about the transit fund unless anybody has any questions.
Move to accept.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for this transit operations fund and the transit capital fund. All right. Any other discussion on this? Can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Shemmers. Seeley.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Oberon.
Yes.
Kearns.
Yes.
Next, I'd like to go to that. So, I can't really remember who all I said this to, because we talked about it a lot, but the money that we're getting in franchise fees has gone down, which makes absolutely no sense given that Alliant Energy has had rate increases. So we do only have 3 receipts in FY '25 if you look at this, where it's highlighted in orange. We get some from REC and then Alliant Energy. So we have received those 2 large payments. The other ones that are in orange we have not received yet, and I'm using the average over on the side to calculate what that would be. So I did not, you can see for FY '25 in total, I budgeted $4.3 million. We're not gonna hit that. We're gonna be at like 3.6, I think, based on those averages. So for FY '26, I budgeted more conservatively, and I budgeted 3.7 million. So that's.
How does this
two-
make sense when they have a rate increase?
It doesn't. We were, Anita and I were discussing this, and we were trying to figure that out because there's nothing that's went offline either. There's nothing that's closed up, and we've been building more. You know, there's more power and more gas that's being used now than ever before.
I haven't built any industries coming online into this number, because I don't know what
Yeah.
Yeah.
that is. I'm building what I think is worst case scenario. So $2.3 million of that goes to abate the debt service levy, and 1.4 stays in the general fund, and our revenue purpose statement states that it'll be used for public safety.
Have we asked?
No, but we were talking about that. I'm gonna set up a meeting with Paula and see if we can actually get behind whatever they are allowed to show us and explain to us why that's
Yeah.
went down. I don't know. I
be a
mean, the
lot of
only other
things.
thing you can throw in there is that people not paying.
That's the first thought that came to my head is if people are
Yeah.
paying partial of their bill or not paying it,
But,
you know what I mean?
what I've been told is that the majority of folks have that where they pay the same amount every month.
Yeah, it's a budget
Yes.
billing.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's very reoccurring, and I don't know, it doesn't compute, especially when you start talking about, when you start talking about $400,000, that's a lot of changes that's happening back here.
It's
that we
also a
don't-
lot of not paying, so to speak.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
it's
Like
almost
that,
too
that
much.
seems like it's a pretty high number.
Well, it
for
almost
that.
seems like there would be like one giant check that accounts for all the overages
Yep.
from,
Yeah,
And when
it's
you,
weird.
I know what you're saying, when you look at the FY '21 column,
Yep.
and you look at that payment from the fourth quarter from Alliant, $1.2 million, when we got that, we were like, oh,
Whoa.
wow. You know, so that payment in June is for April, May, and June. But then the next payment from them was $570,000, which is the lowest payment that we've ever gotten from them. So they said, oh, well, that one was overpaid, and so here's, we
And
reconciled
that,
it.
and that 570 is in the heat of the summer.
Yeah, because that payment would have been for July, August, and
Yep.
September.
Yeah, I think we just have
We'll
a,
have a- yeah.
talk to Paula and
Yep.
see what she says, and then we can.
Yeah, because if you
go
look
from there.
just generically, you know, you got 3.7, dropped to 3.3, went up to 4, dropped to 3.5, and now we're looking at 3.6, and now we're looking at 3.6 again.
Well, that's the average there. The number up on.
Oh,
top
sorry,
is
right here,
3.7.
3.7. Yep, 3.7.
Could be.
And then I just wanted.
Maybe there's a lot of solar that we don't know about. Oh, did you just say
He
that?
just
Sorry.
Yeah, maybe.
Or the other
I don't
thing,
think that's-
the other thing too is because we did, you know, we didn't, they did a lot of new transmission lines, so the way that they're bringing energy could be different as well. So maybe they don't have as big as cost, or they save some, even though I know they raised rates, but they save dollars overall for what they have to spend expense-wise.
I mean,
don't
you
know.
you would expect fluctuations in the numbers, but I think it's enough here that
Yeah.
it warrants a conversation at least to.
yeah.
Yeah, because,
See what it is.
the other thing, if you look at, and REC is a smaller piece, but they've been kind of similarly all over the map, because you go from 57 to 73 to 5,000 to 6,000.
I bet you it's related to weather trends. Because we've had pretty mild winters.
Yeah, the last 2 years have been
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
mild.
Could be.
And then 2021, was that a bad winter? Oh, I remember. It was a bad one. Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah. It was cold.
Do you?
It was cold.
All right.
Anyway,
But I,
Worth a talk.
but I would just like to say that our franchise fee is at 4%. We do have an opportunity to raise it to 5% at some future point in time if we needed to.
Do we have the opportunity to lower it?
no.
And-
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Yes, you do.
based on what our budget is built on, no, but.
Yeah.
But yeah, if we
Yes.
looked at,
Yeah.
But I just want to say this because I don't think Cody was here when we voted to implement the franchise fee. There is a algorithm that goes behind it because it
it
lowers your property tax at a
Yeah.
certain point, so you want to be there so that the citizens aren't paying more, they're actually getting a payoff
Yeah.
at, is it 3.5, 4, what is the
It
percentage?
was right around 3 to 3.5 when we did that because, so in other words, what we're doing is to bring that money in and understand it's gonna be 810 is the general fund, but for other areas is they actually see a savings on their taxes that benefits them from paying that franchise fee.
On their income tax?
Yeah.
No.
No, property tax, property
Because
tax.
we're using, because .625 of the franchise fee, .625 of whatever the percent is goes to abate tax, the debt service. So if
Yeah.
we raise it to 5%, the amount that's gonna abate the debt service levy goes up.
Yeah,
the tax
and we
number-
did it, and it was beneficial for like, I think we did from like house of 50,000 all the way up to, and, you know, because it start costing more, I think over 400,000, it changes a bit, because of the property taxes there, but the debt service levy is the key thing, because all of a sudden, if you can take a quarter or 0.25 off, 25 cents, for example, I don't know if that's the example we used when we were doing the modeling, but,
But I know that there were people that actually came in and said, can you calculate this for
Yep.
me? And I did, and they were seeing not humongous
No.
savings,
Right.
but savings.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it wasn't 10,000 people that came in, it was.
I think it was like $112,000 they lowered on their levy side, and it was only like, and they went up $45 on the franchise fee side.
Okay, so nothing to vote on there, it was for information purposes only. The last item to cover on our agenda is our general fund. But is it okay for me to talk about our calendar quick?
Heck, yeah.
Okay. So I printed off the calendar for everyone, so we calendared all the items that need to occur. So today is February 13th. You can see that we still have the ability to have another budget workshop next week if we need to. On February 25th council meeting, the council is gonna set a public hearing on the FY '26 CIP and the pre-levy number for the 2025A bond issuance, which is what we're borrowing for FY '26. That's always confusing to me that it's not labeled that way. It's labeled whatever calendar year you're in. I need to have the proposed levy entered in the Department of Management site by 4 PM on March 5th. And then I need to send that to the Clinton Herald and have it published on March 13th. So, you know, the things that we've talked about today that are just gonna affect that levy number is the pre-levy for the CIP borrowing. So we're in good shape, I think, to make all those things happen, as long as PFM can turn that number around for us.
But also, Nita, like we talked about, you could still have a 1532 be published, and then we
And
still
come
end up
down.
coming in at 1520 something. Okay,
Yep.
just so you know.
Right.
But what we're trying to do is get that, so we didn't have anybody show up last year, so if citizens want to show up, that's what this new HF 718 from 2 years ago is, so they can actually see what the levies, what was last year, what is it called, the valuation of tax or something, basically look at last year to this year and see what the changes were, and then they can come down and come to the meetings that we're gonna have
Yep.
for that.
So then on March 11th, the council needs to set a date for a public hearing on the proposed property tax levy. It would be the next council meeting, and then we also on that date need to hold the public hearing and adopt the FY '26 CIP and the 2025 pre-levy. And then I also put in here dates that, you know, are reminders to me to make sure that I'm getting the information to the Clinton Herald, so that they can publish it and what dates it's gonna be published on. March 15th, the county must have the proposed levy letter sent out by the state, which is kind of weird that that's a Saturday.
I know.
That just occurred to me, but,
But that also gives a whole other week, if it does go out and they get it, to be notified, because that's kind of how we stumbled a little bit last year, because we shifted the date to allow people to show up, but we threw off our public hearing posting date. You know, that's how we got in that, so that's why we're focused on the calendar.
right. And then on March 25th, we would hold, so we have to have a separate council meeting to talk about the proposed property tax levy. So we'll convene a meeting, the mayor will convene a meeting. It'll
Hit
be
the
that
gavel.
one item. We'll close the meeting, and then we'll have the regular city council meeting. Then moving into April, on April 8th, we'll set the public hearing for the FY '26 budget. So that's when we have to have everything finalized for the budget. On the April 10th, we'll have the Clinton Herald publish our budget. On April 22nd, the council will hold the public hearing for the budget and approve the budget. And then the budget needs to be submitted to the state, to the Department of Management by April 30th. And then January's stapled as the last page there. We're already through January by the time we talk about this.
And typically, we'll send it like after the council meeting,
Yeah.
not wait till the 30th.
And what's the dates again that we have to have? It has to be published between 10 and 20 days?
Yes.
Yes, no
Yeah.
earlier than 20 days out and no later than 10 days in.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay. And we're
And we
we're
also,
at 12
so,
is basically what we're
yeah,
looking at.
Lisa and Anita and I talked about this too, because there's only, 3 days that they publish at the Herald?
Yeah.
Like, is
Tuesday,
it Tuesday,
Thursday.
Thursday, Saturday? So we
Saturday.
have to line that up too, because if you miss it wrong, you're off too, so.
I think it's important that when we send it, we make sure the Clinton Herald knows how important it is to
Yes.
do it on the
Yeah.
exact date that we.
Yep.
Yeah.
How we
True,
put
because
it, too.
this week they did have a problem, or I guess it was last week, they had a
Yeah.
problem with their printing equipment and
Yeah.
they weren't able to
We,
print on a
we had a
certain day.
county meeting that we published a few weeks back that didn't get in
Yep.
time, and we had to postpone, so it's not, I don't know whose fault it was, I'm not pointing fingers, it's
No.
just,
No,
we want to make sure that.
but it makes it harder when they're not doing every day. That does make it harder.
Sure.
Doesn't give you
Yeah.
much flexibility, but.
Yep. Okay, all right.
Okay, the last thing to talk about is the general fund. We have this room until 4:25. Do we want to talk about the general fund now, or do we want to push it off to next meeting?
Talk about it now.
So we have 35
I don't
minutes.
care.
Yeah, we can talk about it. I don't know that I'm ready to approve it, but.
Okay.
Okay.
So after the last meeting, Councilmember Seeley asked me to have the departments go through their budgets and give an indication of things that they could do without or things that they absolutely must have. And I will tell you that 99.9% that's in here is listed as must-haves.
The exercise didn't work like I had hoped it would. So, yeah.
So there are some notes in here. I think I'm just gonna sit down, if that's okay. Sure. And I'll,
Probably gonna get yelled at for the microphone, though.
Well, just pull it over that way. Can't you just like lean it towards you?
I think,
He'll come over, won't
well, there you go. All right.
okay, so nothing's changed on page 1 as far as the revenues, other than the surplus went up. I think it was $37,000 when we started last week.
Okay.
So that's mostly because Matt had a $25,000 line item in the economic development budget that we changed. And we lowered the legal fees to $300,000 from $350,000. Police operations, I had already made some budget cuts to the police department's line items. And so Kevin expressed last week that he wasn't happy with the line items that I chose. And so he and I worked together, him and John worked together, and they made a couple of changes. It wasn't a lot of changes, but some changes. You got that.
Yep.
Thank you. So I'm not gonna spend, there wasn't anything that the police department identified as something that they could be flexible on. The ambulance, again,
Yeah, come on. No, what you do, come up here real quick.
Everybody gets to talk.
Come up here real quick and then, come up here quick before he gets back and then just walk away. Yeah,
And then just say thank you very much.
and when he comes in. Yeah.
And really, my only concern with we've worked it out, but like I said, I like to see the revenues that we're making easy to apply to our funds, so, we're not cutting in and making revenue. We're charging for city ordinances now that we haven't done in years, so we're trying to make some revenue back, but that's about it. And,
So you said you wanted speed cameras? No?
yeah, speed cameras too. Also, I made my ears perk up was the tailgates tall boys, would they have $100,000 for security? That would be nice.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
Man, that was the best update ever. No, we're making, no, we were having Chief up there talk, so when you came back. you
The
wondered what he
fire
said.
department,
Motion,
The whole budget's approved.
did the same exercise with Mike last week. I had some line items that I had cut out of his budget. He came back with a different proposal. It was the same amount of money of a cut, it's just some things moved around. Library, I didn't take any red line to Susie's budget. Susie did indicate herself that she'd be willing to not hire that part-time library assistant, and that was $19,000 that's built in her salaries and wages.
and we denied that because over the last 5 years, Susie has been under budget every year.
Yeah.
Very commendable, true.
By $258,000.
Yes. Oh, 60. To the penny.
Beautiful.
Maybe next year when we do the budget, you can come into my office and help me with the police and fire.
Bring your money. Yeah, that's what'll happen. They'll take your money, Susie.
Ah, that would cover it. 268 would cover it. With some left over. Oh, you could buy the tools for MTA too. I'll rent it. Lease it out to him. All right, I moved to ground and facilities.
Yeah,
Sorry.
under grounds and facilities, Brian identified a couple of line items. One under operating equipment repair, that's $12,000. He said it could come down a little bit, but we spent $13,456 so far this year, so I'm not sure that I'd be comfortable moving that one. But under miscellaneous rentals, we had $20,000 in there. He said we could remove porta potties from locations throughout the city. So I don't know if that's a number. Did you have a proposed number for that, Brian?
No, I didn't, but that's where the vast majority of it's going, is the
Porta
porta
potties.
Okay. And what are the locations?
Like 25th Avenue North, yeah. Yeah. I don't
Oh,
know.
I guess grounds and facilities would pay for
Yeah.
that, not parks.
Yeah.
That's weird, but.
Well, it used to be part of them, but Grand Cities used to be part of Parks and Rec, that's why.
The next activity in the general fund is the recreation department. And Josh, indicated that he'd already decreased his FY '26 budget from FY '25. He reduced advertising and gasoline. Under activity 32, which is the Erickson Center, he decreased it from FY '25, budgeting $150,000 in total for services and commodities, down from $163,000. The swimming pool, which we always, talk about as being a drain on the
Nope.
property tax levy. Again, with something like that, hopefully Josh doesn't shoot arrows at my back when I say this, but this would be a reduction in services. There's not a lot of room for raising the rates there for the amenity that it is. And it's just an amenity to the public, so the revenues do not cover the expenses. But the biggest line items in there are chemicals and water service.
And one thing just to think about for next year is when we look at the hotel motel, maybe that's how we even this out each year.
I think that might help.
We put a sliver that goes right to that, separate of what we're already doing in the general fund, that goes right to that to cover that. Then we know that the pool is in good state.
And then what we do, just do a transfer in? Is that how it would kind of read?
Yeah.
We currently do a transfer in from hotel motel tax revenues. It's about $98,000 the last couple of years. It just goes into the general fund, which is part of all of this. It's rolled up on
Yeah,
the first
right.
page.
And just, let's look at the feasibility if we increase that just to make the pool level,
Sure.
pun intended, because you use drain.
Yep. Eagle Point Lodge, he lowered the wages already to be more in line with the 2-year average, and he decreased the services and commodities, reduced building and maintenance and other technical as building equipment is newer. Under the youth sports program, the increase in the part-time wages is due to an increase in programming. And the services and commodities were decreased from FY '25, went down to $78,350 from the budget year we're in now of $111,950. The only other thing that has a park and rec flavor is the showboat activities at $14,790. You guys talked about that. Last time we could pay that out of the Fund 488. That would put $15,000 back into the general fund. Under mayor council, Scott indicated that the dues and memberships could drop to 12,000. There was a one-time payment.
13.
Excuse me?
13.
13, sorry. 13,000. There was a one-time payment for the clean energy initiative of $2,000.
Yep.
That won't come out again.
The other two items in there is, it's like 9,000 and some change for the League of Cities, and then 3,000 for the Mississippi Rivers and Towns. So that's what the two,
$9,000 to the League Cities.
yeah.
What do we get?
They do lobby, so they do,
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the Legislative Policy Committee, so I am on those calls every week during the legislative sessions, so we're getting an update on all of the items that are going on there. They do
Yep.
lobby in favor of cities.
they do the training for clerks, they have training for city administrators, they do the annual conference stuff,
Okay.
training for council members.
All right, so we're getting.
Yeah, it's probably.
I think we're getting the value out of that, but we also probably should pay attention to what they're offering and utilize it
Yeah,
to its
true,
max,
true.
you know, so we are getting more out of it, but,
It's a good resource.
yeah. And you can always call them too.
Yeah,
And they're
true.
experts on municipal stuff. I've called before on
Yep.
certain things and talked to
Yep.
people, so.
The only other line item in there, we talked about, there's that $7,400 for the lobbyist.
Yeah.
We haven't, that's expired. What was that date? Was it
Did it
June 30th?
expire?
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
trying to go.
I mean, I'm still getting updates from them, and they're
Are
still
ya?
working for us.
Yeah,
So,
we haven't paid anything for like this new fiscal year. for
I don't
them.
think anybody took the lead, because remember,
it's a yearly fee. So we,
Yeah.
our government committee, we haven't really discussed the contract.
yeah, 'cause I remember when we first started, I took that contract around to get it ready to sign, and then we switched it over to the county, and then one time Comanche did it, and I don't know, since I don't go to those anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
I was just in a meeting where we were talking about it. but
we
I
have
don't
our
remember what meeting it
Des Moines
was.
days next week,
Is it government?
and they set it all up,
Maybe.
so.
We have not, unless the firm changed, but I looked in this line item, there's zero spent year to date for FY '25, but we budgeted 7,400.
Yeah, it's called the EI,
Edie Walton.
yeah, Edie Walton, yeah.
That's the vendor that I saw before.
I'm getting the
Yeah.
updates too.
Yeah.
I
We-
can,
yeah.
I can ask, so, Parbs at Grow Clinton is the one that's kind of the
Did Bill
lead.
Clinton cover it?
They might have.
Maybe.
I don't know.
They very well could have. I know there's other cities that wanted to bow out, Comanche and DeWitt, so maybe Grow Clinton took it. I'll ask.
Yep.
I'll find out. And then if we don't, we
Yep.
can cut that out if we needed to.
Or maybe we use part of that for the training we've been talking about,
Sure.
the third-party training.
Yeah. Okay.
So leave it in there.
I think we probably
Just
should
in
leave it
case,
at the moment,
yes.
Okay.
and then I'll get an answer from.
Because they may
from
just,
Grow.
they haven't billed us yet. They could be.
It's quite possible.
Yeah,
as
they
well.
might be watching this and be like, oh,
Oh,
dang, we gotta do that. The city administrator, there was nothing that he identified to
Yeah.
be cut out of his budget. City attorney, we reduced it to 300, it was 350. Human resources, oh shoot, I didn't put a calculator on this.
And I was just gonna say, and what we're gonna do there is just monitor closely. I mean, Anita does a great job of letting us know what monthly bills are, but we're gonna start capping some pieces and parts, just because it's just too high. So we gotta get, I'd rather have it around, I think we could, but, you know, if you look at the past years though, 367, 370, you know,
Over the fiscal year 20 through 24.
Yes.
We're over budget $385,000
Yep.
on attorney
yep.
through those 5 years. That doesn't include FY '25. I
And
don't
we
know.
have another increase coming.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna really start to watch that and how we work through the department heads do a good job of coming through myself before I send them that way. But really what it is when we're in court, when we're in nuisance stuff, which is all stuff we need to do. So Tammy, we'll work through like how we do.
Last year, we brought in over $100,000 in fines,
Oh, that's true.
so, I mean, we're bringing money back in when we go to court.
So
true.
that's probably something that we should track
Yeah.
against this.
Because then instead of 350, it's only 250.
Exactly.
So that's all rolled up in the
Yeah.
general fund revenues, like under,
I guess
Yeah.
I don't mean like actually roll it up into legal. I'm just saying like if we have the comparison,
Yeah.
okay.
it makes sense to know
It makes me
that.
feel better if we're at 350, if we're getting a,
Knowing that you spent 100 on legal and you brought in 125.
Yeah,
yeah, that helps.
That makes a difference.
Because
yeah.
there's a lot of actions that we won't get dollars for. They're
Sure,
just, it's just
sure.
legal stuff, right? But the ones that we do, that would be important. But we're gonna give it a try. You guys may laugh at me next year, but we're gonna give it a try to get to 300 or
I
under.
think we can do it.
Yeah.
The human resources activity, I did meet with Janine. I apologized to her that I probably didn't hold her hand like I should have, with her being new. I thought that she had watched it online. Hopefully I didn't offend you by saying that. Okay. 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 But she suggested some changes that actually net out to a $1,000 increase. But there's budgets, I think one thing that she wasn't understanding is that a lot of the departments have training budgets in them, so she didn't have to beef up a big training budget to cover all of those departments. Building safety division, there wasn't anything that Mike identified to change there. Under Human Rights Commission, we didn't touch anything there. Under finance, I reduced it 1,000.
And
1,000.
human rights has always been under budget, by the way.
Yeah, 725. So far, year to date, they spent 69 cents. We must have had to put postage on something.
One stamp.
Why $1,423.21.
Yep.
For finance, I reduced it. I took out training, meetings, and conferences. I'm not going to go anywhere. Technical services, and I reduced my line item for office supplies down to 400. So I'm covering Janine's $1,000 there.
No alligator clips for you.
Under information technology, Eric, looked at this real thoughtfully, and the thing that he could cut out if he was asked to would be the $15,000 that's for an intern, but he does get a lot of work out of the individual that's down there right now. Under government buildings, there was two highlighted things that could be changed. $6,500 under minor operating equipment. It's on the next page, Matt, at the top of the next page. And $6,000 under building supplies. We could reduce those down to what they were budgeted for FY '25, which would be a total of $4,500 for those two items instead of $12,500. So we could take $8,000 off there. Civil Service Commission, there wasn't anything proposed to be changed there. Under City Clerk, there wasn't anything proposed to be changed there. Under City Planning, there wasn't anything proposed to be changed. Under Community Development, there were no proposals for a change. Under Economic Development, I already mentioned that we took out the $25,000 that was under city grant local match.
And I did that originally just because we didn't have anything on the CIP, but I think one thing would be important if we had folks come for like when we had the cow the other day on catalyst grants and stuff, that may be something for the finance committee, just for your back pocket, Rhonda, on having like, using the bond premium. Because otherwise we have no resources to match if they want to do, projects, just for the back pocket if we get that, because talking to Megan, they want to see, they'd like to see one or two projects each year, same if we can get one up in Lyons, and if we can get a building done for 100,000 and our match is 10, we got to figure out somewhere we can get the 10, so.
And then, the transfers are just for the franchise fee that comes in, gets received into the general fund, gets transferred to the debt service fund, the airport transfer out of, I don't remember what Marlena's number was, the tort, comes into the general fund, gets transferred out. I didn't fill in the
69, I
transit
think.
levy number, but it would increase revenues and then show up here, the in and out.
Somebody arguing out there? Oh, they're being happy.
So I don't see the Historic Preservation Commission on here anywhere, and I know that they have a budget. What does that fall under?
The county, I think. Because I think it's the historical preservation.
Yeah, I don't,
I-
Lisa, that's not anything that you build
I don't-
into your budget, is it?
No. I could be wrong. I know they ask us for money sometimes. but I could be wrong on this, but I thought it was the county historical preservation, the Clinton County Historical Preservation.
Yeah, those monies.
Yeah, but I
are-
don't know why we choose them,
We,
or unless there's two combined.
yeah, there's the certified local government agreement that we have.
Yep.
Says that they have ability to get money, but it doesn't say from
Any money,
where.
yeah. And they have to renew that every year,
And they
that
have
you
to,
probably
yeah.
from the board, that's a big deal that they
Yeah.
have to go to training and review that, but
Yeah,
I
that's.
think they're on tap, though. Did you guys approve the 10K? 10,000 they asked for?
Yeah, we did.
Yep, yep, I think that's covered, so,
And I think their other plan is gonna go through Grow Clinton.
yes,
Through the
for the historical
hotel
district.
motel,
Yep.
so I'll find that out.
Okay,
Thank you.
I went back to the top slide, so.
That's okay. That's all I have to say about the general fund. If you guys have discussion that you want to have here, if you want to just go ahead and approve it. I mean, yes.
Yes.
All right. So I've done a lot of, I guess research work on this with help of Matt and Anita, so I appreciate getting all that stuff together. What ultimately concerns me, the revenue side of things doesn't concern me at all, because that kind of number is what it is. But the expense side of things concern me. So I do appreciate going from the $37,000 surplus to the $113,000 surplus. So thank you for everybody going back and looking through your budgets there. But I know kind of one of Matt's things, we can't predict the future, but looking at historical data, we've been generally from FY20 until FY24, we've had some deficits in the general fund. Recently, we have used some of our reserve funds to cover some of those deficits, and I recognize that some of those were council directed, which is fine. The purchase of the police station, the 250 for the Y, and the 250 for the Lafayette. But if you come in here and you look at the spreadsheet and you run a 5-year total, almost every department has run at a deficit based on the budget that they're projecting. So I ran the numbers down here, and then I spoke with Anita earlier, and I understand that my number's not exactly correct because I learned a little bit more about the accounting of the city. If there's a large claim, like on the medical side for someone, it actually comes out of their budgets, and then it gets transferred back in from that other fund that goes through there. So the number's not exactly perfect, but if you look at
Along the line also, remember we talked, so there's also like, if we get payments from like the school or use SRO, for example, it doesn't necessarily go back in and refill that particular department bucket. It goes into overall, right? So you might, let's just say,
It goes into if you look at the first page,
Yep.
on the revenues, there's, a line item for, I didn't enumerate police revenues. It does go to a police revenues line item. Why didn't I do that? Theirs isn't a lot, though. They get, the SRO reimbursement, but what it doesn't do is it doesn't come out of their wages and, wages expenses, and it's about 250. It's a little bit more than that. I don't remember the number for sure, but it's about $250,000. If they work overtime events at the school, that comes in, goes into police revenues. I think I just rolled it up in the charges for services line items.
but just based on what the mayor was looking at though, it was breaking down by each department. So it's gonna be
Yeah.
like negative 300, but it's really negative 200 because they did get reimbursed, but she does the accounting over on this side.
right. And I guess my concern is I feel like we're budgeting, we're trying to get to like a break even, like a zero balance here. And if you look at historical, that hasn't happened. So what my thought is we need to trim, revenues are going to stay the same. Hopefully they're up, right? But there's a potential they could be down. We need to trim expenses down to where we are actually budgeting a much larger surplus than what we have in the past. So in the past, we've done this 178,000, somewhere in that range, right? And we've gone over budget because things happen, and I understand that. So my thought is, we have 2 million roughly in reserves, right?
Yeah, Cody asked me what our general fund cash balance was today.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
$1.7 million.
Right.
1.7. What's our reserve policy again for the general fund?
20% of expenses.
What should it be then?
20% of 25 million.
So we should
Take
be,
out, but you gotta take out the transfers
Okay, true.
so it should be around,
on my calculator.
Yeah.
10% of, here, let me work on it. Keep talking.
Okay. So my thought is, as we're going through this, we need to budget expenses to where maybe we have $1 million in surplus, right? Because there's going to be overruns, there's going to be things that happen, and we understand that. And that's something that the department heads and Matt would work on together. Like, hey, I'm going to go over my budget on this line item because of this reason, and we work that out. If it has to come to council, it does, right? Having that surplus budget like that, if we do end up having a surplus of $1 million every single year because we're staying on budget and we're not going over, then as the governing body up here, we have to look at, are we taxing too much at that point, or are we not, right? Maybe we're doing just fine and we take that money and we roll it into capital improvements every year, right? And that's what it is. But I'm nervous that if we continue to budget the short surplus that we have here, we could go through that $1.7 million extremely quickly on the reserve side of things, and then we could be, and I'm not saying this because I think we're in a bad position right now. We're not. I just think that our budget has gone from FY20, which is not a budget that I worked on, that's the first year I came in, our total revenue budget for that was 17.92 million. And we're looking at this right here, and we're $8 million higher in a budget in 6 years, which is an extreme amount of growth. And I know some of that's because of wages. It's some things we can't control. I understand that, but I'm nervous if we keep on this path, we're going to continue to have a deficit that's going to chew into those reserves. We're not going to be able to replenish the reserves to get to our policy level. And then we also could be in a spot where, you know, we just in a tight area where we can't do anything at that point. So does that understand kind of what I'm looking
Yeah.
at? And again, Anita did a great job running this down as far as all of these numbers here. And we are at a deficit on the general fund over the last 5 years. And that doesn't mean we're negative in the checking account, because we're not.
No.
It just means we're continually in most every department going over what we're budgeting, which is a scary situation.
We had a good year in fiscal year '21 where we got some CARES Act money from the federal government. I think it was like $562,000. There were some real estate sales that was like $500 and some thousand, and now when I think back on that, I can't even think what that was. But we had a good fund balance, reserve fund balance in the general fund in FY21, but we've been just, chipping away at it. And I don't think the general fund balance policy is 20%, because that would be $4.2 million. So I will get that information
Yeah,
for
I
you, and
can't
I will
remember
email
what
it
it
out.
was.
It's either 10 or 15%. I think it's
I-
15.
For some reason, I thought it was around 3.5 million.
Yeah, so I
But
think
again,
it's-
this is a percentage, not a number, versus the other one is a
Right.
number and not a.
I think it's 15% of expenses, which would be $3.3 million.
Yeah, and I think what you're hitting on is, I kind of go back to days of Lean Six Sigma, so excuse this, but I think what I would throw out to you guys today is that we work on codifying this budget, but we plan for the whole next year, like I sent a couple of you guys an email on. And we start to do deep dives with the department to take a look, because I think we can, with the 1.7, and us being cautious over the next year, we can get through this year, but I think we need to plan this whole next year, so when we look at FY27, because several things will change by then. Good and bad, for both revenue and expenses, but I think we need to start taking a look and how do we lean as much as we can when we start talking about across the board being fair and impartial
Right.
to all the different departments and seeing what we can do, but not lowering those essential services that we're still providing.
And I think also looking at it at a holistic view too, I think almost every budget has a printing materials line, right?
We talked about
Like that line there. Like, does every single department need to be budgeting the printing materials line that they are currently, right? Or is that more of a thing where we need to be all together to where it's more evened out across the board, and we're lowering that cost? Because some people might use it, some people might not. Like,
We used the example when we were talking streamlining the replacement of computers actually saved a lot of dollars. Even though you're getting a new computer sooner, but it's cheaper because we're bundling and saving, so to speak. And I think we can look across the board and say, are those other things we can do? So in other words, like what he's talking about on printing paper, whatever it may be, is it makes sense if we get a pallet or 2 pallets, and I think Anita and I have had this discussion, and that all comes in, and then it gets parsed out to all the different departments versus buying your, hey, I need a thing of paper right now, so you go and buy, and they deliver it, and it's, $10 more expensive for that one box, where you could save,
Yeah.
maybe more on that.
I think taking that deep dive and looking at the expense line items, to me, it's much better to take a deep dive into those things and cut dollars out of it than cut people.
Yep.
And we're not a spot where we need to cut people, and I don't want to cut people. But if we can cut those operating expenses and be better on that front,
Yep.
we can get that budget down a little bit. And, I mean, I would love to come in with a little bit of a surplus every year that we could then do some economic development things or capital projects or get engineering out of the road use tax fund so that we
Yep.
can use
more
that money
towards road.
for roads and then not
Yep.
borrow for it. All those things, it's like a stair-step effect. And looking at the data here with the spreadsheet, it's kind of scary seeing a lot of red numbers.
Yep.
I think they're red. I'm colorblind.
No, they're pinkish.
So, what needs to happen before next Thursday? Like, what's it equate to? What
mean?
percent? The,
I mean, as far as like getting down,
yeah.
5% of our budget is 1.2 million. I just did that number.
Okay.
So
Well,
it's really,
I
up
we
to
can
you guys.
start
kinda.
the real exercise, and we can actually, department heads can actually look at their budgets and look at things they can actually cut out of that, and then we can reeval. Because I think the intent here is to continue down the path of what we're projecting for the levy, but to get this budget
So-
process actually reflecting what we're spending.
Going through the expenses and potentially lowering that's not going to affect the levy
Yeah.
whatsoever.
The 812 will be 812, but
Correct. Yep.
in the exercise that we could work next year is we have until FY '29 to get to 810. So that's another 2 cents, another $200,000, let's say. But
I
that's
would-
another 200,000 that we won't have available. So,
I would like, and I sent Matt stuff on the SAFER grant because it's expiring.
Yep.
We need to talk about that. In fact, we need to get a date set
yep.
for next Thursday.
Oh, before next Thursday?
Don't you think?
Well, I talked to Mike this morning. We can continue this conversation. I'd like to actually spend the next year doing the deep dive.
That's fine, but I'm ready to start diving before I approve the budget.
I know,
So-
but right now, remember, so that SAFER grant goes until March.
I know it does, but we can have the conversation because, yeah, we need to have the conversation.
Gotcha,
I
but
think,
so
yeah.
remember, and also in the SAFER grant is based on the guidance they give, you have to keep 51 filled at all times. Otherwise, you lose the money.
Yep, well, not after it expires.
Yeah, so, but, no, it does, in March, but right now, this budget, basically, Mike was able to cover that 4-month gap.
Yep, we just
with
got
this.
4 months.
But that's why I'm saying, I think we need the next 12
Yep.
months to
Yep.
be working this.
No, I'm with you,
Yeah.
but I still want to have the meeting because we got to
Oh.
it's something that requires action now. You know what I mean? Because of
Planning.
hiring people and.
Yes and no, but like
And, yeah.
but like the example I gave you for, if, say we have, for example, 3 firefighters retiring,
Yep.
right? Which is the example I gave you. Those have to be filled right now until we get to March.
Till we get to March, correct.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying I'm with you, but I think
Yep.
we need more, I haven't used
Yep.
it all the whole time.
Yep.
We need more
Yep.
time and space to get around the corner.
Nope,
because-
I want to make sure we
Yes.
start having the conversations now, just like the health insurance
Yes.
conversation.
Yep.
I'm going to be adamant about that.
Well, and I should have the stuff from Ian
Yep.
too, to be able to show
Yep.
you on the base.
I want to see an actual budget that reflects something more plausible, more realistic. So I really want
Percentage
the
today.
department heads to go in and make some cuts. The exercise for me on the colors
Yeah.
did not work. Yeah.
Brian Lemke,
Yeah.
Public Works. So I'm just doing a little basic math back here.
Yep.
You take the 24 million from the first line item for the total cost and then the 25 million. That's a 7% increase over 5 years. That doesn't even come close to covering inflation. So we're gonna be talking about the same thing anyway, because there's no more revenue coming in.
Well, no, these are all good points, Brian. Yeah, the state's changed everything. So.
Well, they're not done yet.
Yeah, they're not done yet. So here's the deal, Brian. We're trying to keep the cart following the horse here. So we're not in a situation, did you live in Clinton when they had to let people give them early retirement and stuff? Nobody wants that to
With
happen.
the exception of the military,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So we're just not, I don't think the writing's even on the wall, but if we don't be prudent and we don't be responsible, then we'll be there.
Well, for sure,
Yeah.
but I don't even know how we get there, because the revenue's not.
I know it's
you-
a tough
you can't-
conversation, yeah.
You can't get there,
Yep,
because, I mean, if you just go inflation over the last 5 years, it's probably more like 4%. You know, you talk.
I totally agree, Brian.
COVID and all
Yep,
that.
yep.
So we can talk as much as we want, but there's no answer to it.
No,
We're-
I agree.
We're not even just buying our day-to-day,
Eggs.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
day-to-day eggs. I mean,
Had to do
fuel
it.
costs are up.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
it's just astronomical.
I know.
Right? It's,
But
I don't know.
We've
it's
got,
tough.
yep, and some departments haven't changed a whole lot over the last 5
No.
years. Some have changed significantly. Correct? So,
Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
yep.
I heard the other day it costs 3 pennies to make a penny.
8.
Did hear that too. Did hear that too.
Yeah,
3 cents to make 1 cent.
yep.
Hey, I know we got to go here soon, but my question is I guess 2 questions. One, what number are we trying to get to? Just because as a department head, I went through the exercise, went through what are we spending, what's realistic, what do we need? I mean, for my department, what do we need to be in compliance? At the end of the day, if we got to spend money and I'm going over budget because I'm following the law and making sure that we're not doing God knows what, it's just got to happen. But for the other department heads, I guess I'm curious, what's the number we're trying to get at? Because obviously, as Brian said, inflation's not going away. Back in 2020, 2021, inflation was almost 10%. So, there are some things that we can't get around, but what is the specific number that you're looking, Cody, to get cut? The second follow-up is, again, not to put you on the spot, Cody, but is that the direction of the full council? Or is it just what you would like to see?
Well, I don't know. He did all
We
this
don't know
analysis.
that until we vote,
Yeah.
because we can't talk about
Yep.
it with each other.
Yep, and no, the council hasn't voted on it, so
Okay.
that'd be something that needs to happen. You presented 2 budgets, and I don't think the whole council has this, but we have one that's 258 and one that's 417. When we initially started talking about the HR department, we were talking about a $150,000 department. We're at 250 now, right? So it's things like that where, and this is partially my fault because, when we have the initial discussion, we think salaries, right? But then we don't think about all the other things that go along with it. So, IT is another example, Eric. I'm sorry, but your department has gone astronomical. It's expensive. It's become an expensive department to have.
But
So,
remember on that one,
but
though.
the world's changing,
But both
too.
those used to be embedded elsewhere. So,
Correct.
Yep.
there's some
Yep.
IT costs that we had elsewhere that we've now migrated together. Same
So,
with-
I don't know what the answer is. What was your 5% was 1.1 million. I think.
1.2.
What did you say we're on average? We've been over?
So the number that I got is after I took out the 250, and the 607, over those 5 years, we were over budget in the general fund by 4.35 million, which is 871 average for the 5 years. But after talking to Anita, that number is actually lower than that because there was some claim costs and things like that. So I'd have to put in there. And if I remember right, it was you probably got to take about 2 million off of that number, maybe 1.5.
Just look at what
Yeah.
the surplus deficit is from FY '20 to, I can't see.
23, 24,
Yeah, it's
Start-
like $1.9 million, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
these two.
yeah. So about $1 million of that is those 3 projects that you're naming, and then the other $900,000 is.
Right.
So about
And then-
450 each year.
Yep.
Well, no, you have to add in the years before that too. I'm going to FY '20.
Oh, no, I was just using
through-
this one.
Yeah, so those, yeah, so that's what I'm looking at, and.
Perfect.
And we need to build reserves. We obviously don't need to have millions and millions upon dollars of reserves because that means we're overtaxing, but we do need to make sure we're in a decent position. And I know this is a tough conversation, but but we have to have it so that we're planning for the
It's
future.
not that tough if we don't start thinking about all this now. And I'm not saying we're gonna start cutting a bunch of crap out of your budgets, but if we don't start planning now, then it is going to be a tough conversation where we're talking about people's jobs.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's, we
And
don't
that's
want to
not-
get to that.
That's not what we've,
Well,
would
you-
like to-
you're
Can I
not,
say something real
yeah,
quick?
hold on, chief, and you're not really overtaxing, because remember, this is the 812.
Well, yeah, I get,
Well,
I get
no,
what you mean.
really,
not right-
the-
we're not
the
adding
eight- The 810 is the max, right? So you should only be taxing what you need to operate your services. That does not, we're just maxed out.
But we
And
went from,
have-
we went from, 8.
I know we use the emergency. so-
837, and
Yeah.
we've come down now, so we're gonna migrate to 810. What you're talking about is at some point getting below 810.
Yep, yep.
My contention is 10 years here, we've always tried to stay within our budget. I mean, budgets go up because of employee salaries and wages and benefits for the
I
most part.
recognize that.
Our services, we've cut as much as we can. And like Anita cut overtime and stuff like that, which is what we resisted because we know historically, we've always gone those numbers.
Sure.
You can cut all you want, but we're gonna
But-
go over budget, so then
but
what do you do?
to-
So I mean, it looks good today, but tomorrow we gotta go over budget.
To
So-
Brian's point, revenues aren't increasing.
Right.
But salaries are.
Right.
Expenses are.
But you can cut it,
Right.
like Anita's cut our overtime salary by $25,000.
Sure.
I know historically in the last 10 years, we've gone over that. So I know
Right.
we're setting up to fail because I'm gonna have to go for a budget amendment to satisfy
Right.
my salaries and wages, so.
And we don't want you to be set up for failure.
We don't, yeah, we don't. But Kevin, you
That's not
understand,
what
at
we want.
some point, the reserves are gone, and you can
Right, I
no
do.
longer go over that budget.
I do understand that.
Yeah, that's the point.
So we have to
Yeah.
come up with a solution, but
Yeah.
Right.
the wages and salaries are going up, and if we cut our budget, it looks good today,
Wage-
but next year, we've gone over again.
Wages
So-
and salaries are definitely going up faster than revenues are going up.
Right.
That's a fact. And I think we can all agree on that. And I'm not saying we need to lower that or get rid of people. What I'm saying is we got to find a way to get our expenses down so that we're not running at a deficit in the
You know,
general
like,
fund.
You guys keep talking to Cody about this. He's the one that's done all this work and,
I'm all for it, but I think we
and
should-
wants to talk about it. I'm just backing
In
him up.
in my uneducated opinion, I think we should work at this for next year, but we should get this one through so we don't have to, because we've already cut as much as we can cut, and we're gonna be over next year right now, I'll tell you that right now, so.
The thing is, the beauty of this is this.
There's beauty here?
Yes, there is. The beauty of this is this. The levy and the revenues that are coming in are gonna remain the same. We can work simultaneously, right? Starting now, we can work on these budgets and making sure we're monitoring and staying within budget. And if we have issues, we can have those conversations. We should be doing that all year round. So that we get to a point when we get to budget season next year, we're sharp, we're good, and we've already done this. That's what I'm getting. I'm not asking you to do anything other than
We're not cutting the
monitor
funding.
monitor
No, I know.
budgets and
And I
let's
agree. I
stay
totally agree
below
with
them.
that. My position is we should get this done now, so we're not looking at being delayed, and then work from
Yeah.
Well, this,
tomorrow on.
like I said, the levy in this, we can work on the general fund past the April 30th due date. It doesn't matter,
Okay.
right? This general fund budget doesn't have to, the line by line items don't have to go anywhere,
And 'cause
right?
is-
No, it does.
Or sorry,
Yeah.
it does.
Have a total to the Department of
Yeah.
Management of what you're gonna spend, like for public safety
End of
or
April.
Okay.
the library or.
Yeah.
It's just
But
not-
you could
it's
always
not
go
an
under.
Sure,
issue. I
but
don't
we
know
can
if
always
changes,
go
but-
under.
I
We can
think-
always go under.
I think what we have
Yes,
now is,
that's
all
what I'm
of us
getting
have
at.
agreed that we've cut, we've done your exercise and we've cut, I know we have.
Sure.
We're where we are. You can cut it more, but you're cutting off stuff that we're gonna go over next year, I guarantee.
And one other piece is there should be, as we start to look at assessed values, we should be able to, because this is what HF 718 does. You can get to 3% growth, that's it. So even if we grow 5% for the next 5 years every year.
Right.
But we could get 3% because they're gonna cut us back. So we have a little bit of factor growth, but it's still not keeping up with all the expenses.
Correct.
Yep.
Yes, and that's why.
And remember also, 1/3 of this general fund is property taxes.
Correct.
So there's
Right.
other revenues that we don't have control over either.
Correct, and we don't know what those revenues are gonna be.
Yeah.
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 Like, let's just say we budget on the ambulance revenues and nobody calls us and they're down, right? I mean, that's,
Yeah.
or permitting. What if things get expensive and people aren't pulling permits because they can't do the work, right? And now our revenues are down, but we still have some fixed costs that we have to cover.
I totally think it's a good exercise, but as I was telling Cody, I think it's gonna take some, Mr. Cody, I think it's gonna take,
Yes.
I think it's gonna take some time.
It will, but we need to start the
No,
conversation.
no,
And-
no, I know.
And I'm not gonna sit up here and be like, Kevin, you need to cut $300
Yeah, I-
for landfill fees,
yeah, I don't
right?
wanna-
Because I don't know your budget as well as you do, right? I'll be happy to sit down with you and go through budgets with anybody, right?
It's great that we start this earlier and get through the
Yeah.
whole thing, I understand that.
Yes, yeah, so,
But then we could put some markers on the wall, like as each month we go and proceed, make sure hey, let's focus on this one. Let's get through that one, then.
right, right. And then active management of the budget every month or quarter or however
Yeah.
you guys are scheduled to do it, right? You can work that out and,
Well, I think that's the big thing that we talked about, because part of the problem, and I've talked to several department heads, is if Anita tells me say we're halfway through the year at 6 months, and we should be at 50% spent, and she comes to tell me, we just had this conversation, she says, Department X is at 65% spent. Is it cyclic? Is it gonna change? What do I do? What can we do to adjust it? And that's the part, I think, when we dive into this, I want to do a separate section with Anita to figure out, how do we do that? Because what's also happening, and we talked about the carrot and the stick. So essentially, like, I'm gonna use Miss Susie. Miss Susie, for that $268,000, this is just for discussion, should have started her budget with $268,000. Just go with me here. Because otherwise, she's not being rewarded for being under budget. And if you go over 50,000 on your budget, you should start negative 50 on your next year budget.
Yes.
But those are things that we want to talk about before the department heads freak out, right? But we'll talk about that. Yeah. But I think that's a great discussion, because you're right, because I'd rather be sitting in a position where we have 2.5 million in there. We can do a 500 thing that comes up for a great development, and we're still okay.
Yep, I agree.
correct.
So,
That's
know,
the situation I want
Yeah.
to be in.
1.7 million doesn't really shake a stick at the amount of money coming in and out of this place. You know what I mean? Just the amount.
no, I know.
The general fund balance.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
know there's other balances, yeah.
You know, that's us as of today, so that includes the property tax receipt that I got the information on, that'll go be in the bank tomorrow.
That includes that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that was a very small deposit. The big deposit is coming
Yeah.
Yeah.
in March.
Good.
And I also think when we look long-term too, is we look at new revenue streams. What have we been talking about? Wastewater, right?
Oh,
So,
yeah, yeah.
but when they get to a certain point and they are in a position where they can manage everything they need to do, then that leaves the sitting council the ability to each year move over things. And I think that would put us, and that's why when we come back and talk about biogas and we talk about these RINs that no one ever, renewable identification numbers, and you're like, what is that? That's why this is so important, because then we could actually start putting some eggs away in a positive way to give us a little more breathing room for years to come. But as Anita says, we're on the cusp.
So do we need to do
Always.
anything right now?
Just approve the general fund, I'm kidding.
I mean,
If we raise our right hand, Cody, we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it, but can,
You guys can, I want another week to look at it, but.
and yeah, I'm just asking, do we
we can
need
still
to do
approve it and look
anything?
at it, it's okay.
It's up to you all.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
but what I'm getting is that 113 at the bottom.
Yep.
This is what we're trying to increase.
No,
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes,
that-
ma'am.
That number is what we're trying, yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
have more.
Like
Oh,
back
okay.
over here when it was,
Instead of when we
yeah,
had those, but,
yeah.
you know.
yeah, there's, yeah, I mean, historically, there's a few years where we had a decent surplus, you know?
Yeah, but I think that goes back
FY
to,
'22, 910,000, 2.3 in
Yeah.
'21.
but I think that's what Anita was saying, that we had some CARES fund, we had some other
Right.
funds that came in that put us in a
Right.
better position.
I
So,
mean, if, I don't even necessarily need another budget meeting, if Anita gets that information together on those various items, I would even approve this at the next council meeting or something if
okay.
we wanted to do that. Or, you know, have,
Next week is before the next council meeting.
yeah, I know, so it would actually wait a couple extra days, yeah. I'm
but
just saying,
when do you need it for
Yeah, your
your
calendar.
calendar?
um,
I don't need the donor.
You're
She
okay?
doesn't need the general fund. That's
Yeah.
why we held
Oh.
till, that's why we held till
Doesn't need that till the
last.
I got you.
Because the 812 is gonna be the
Yep.
812.
No, I got you.
right?
Yep.
That's,
So you wanna talk about it on the 25th? Or
Well, yeah,
approve it
if
the
you- If we
25th?
don't want to do another special meeting and just have it as an agenda item on the
On
council
25th?
meeting, that's completely fine.
I'm good with
Yeah.
that.
for the general
Yeah.
fund?
Well, because that way Pat and
Ron will be
Yeah.
back
will
too.
be here too.
And then if there are any questions, you're always there, so we could talk about it quickly if we need to.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna have this on the
25th.
council meeting 25th. That's everything on the item, or on the list, right?
Yep, and people
Okay.
are waiting, sorry.
Would entertain a motion,
They went to the engineer.
Oh, good.
oh,
Yeah.
would entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we are adjourned?